evening, everyone, and welcome to another Money Space with me, Kalu Aja. Over here, every weekend, we're talking money, the economy, and of course, personal finance. I want to make the topics personal to you, and this week's topic is very, very personal to you. It's going to be 1 year since we had the new administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we're just asking a very simple question, are you better off economically today than a year ago? That's essentially what we're asking, right? And, I'm a money guy, I could give you all the facts and all the numbers, inflation, GDP, PMI. But this week, we want to make it really, want to throw it back to you guys. We want you guys to take the stage and talk. How has the economy impacted you on a personal note? Give us your own stories. I don't want to do more of the economic talk. I want to hear really from you guys. DMs, request to speak. Tell me about the economy. What has happened to you in the last 12 months? Have you gotten richer? Has your net worth increased? Have you gotten adverse reactions? What do you think can change the situation? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? What is it? That's what I want to hear from you today. And as we go along, there's a need, I will inject the economic numbers in there. But this week is all you guys, because you guys are the Nigerians. You guys are the taxpayers. So I want to make sure we give you that chance to speak. So that's it. I'm done. So let's start with Graceful. Graceful, how are you doing? You've got the mic. How has your economy been, say, 12 months, as it were? Go ahead, Graceful. Graceful, you want to unmute, or let me just hop to Chinedu. Mr. Chinedu, how are you doing? Let's get Graceful, get us settled. Chinedu, how are you? How has your economy been past 12 months?
Good evening, Carlo. Thank you for the space. Well, I would say that I'm not better off. A lot of savings that were done in Naira, the inflation has eaten deep into them, and some of these investments are going to be 2 years, 3 years, and all that. You can't just wake up and take them up. Even if you decide to withdraw them now, you'll find out that. So I can't see, I'm almost a quarter of what I was worth like a year ago. When you put all these things together, anytime you're trying to calculate it, you start having headaches because, I don't know. So I don't think we are better off. I'm not better off personally. I think 50 or even 70% behind, and all that. The inflation is biting hard, and all that. So we're not better off. I don't know. There is need for government to do something urgently to put things back on track. My biggest problem is just like people saying that a year is too early to judge a government. That's not actually the issue. The issue is that, are they taking efforts? What are the policies that they are bringing up that will give you the hope? This government has a way of blaming past administrations. APC, they're just very good at that. The last government did the same. This government are doing the same. My biggest problem and worry is that if I keep on staying here, I am not seeing any policy or effort from the part of the government to take care of the situation. Even recently, I've resigned to the fact that this government seems not to know anything that they can do about inflation. I do tell people around me that the only way we might do something at individual levels to curb food inflation, because that's the worst in Nigeria, is, everybody needs to go back to farming, use your rooftops, your balconies, grow pepper if you can, tomatoes and all that, because it's really biting hard. So I'm not better off, I'm just far behind. So thank you.
So essentially, you're not better off because the Naira depreciation has sort of reduced your net worth, more or less. So you have investment that you have done, Naira has fallen. So in terms of better.
Yes, let me give you an insight, an example of what happened to me that I regret up till now, that had made me to say anything that has to do with real estate in Nigeria, count me out. I bought a property of 9 million last year. You know how I got the property? I had to a kind of liquidate a dollar savings, right, to purchase the property. At that time, dollar was, I think, 550 naira per dollar. 550 naira per dollar, yeah. So I had to liquidate it. Now, I decided to get rid of the property. You know what people are pricing? The highest we've gotten is 39. And when you put that in together, it could not even serve the purpose of anything. You invest it back and you begin to wonder where we are going. So the naira depreciation is something else. So if you factor it in as an asset and you calculate the worth of the assets or the assets you have in Nigeria already, you will realize that you are just far behind and all that.
Okay, question.
So that's an example.
Somebody would argue that because the naira has weakened, if I was a farmer and I was exporting agricultural products from Nigeria, I'm making more naira. So if I was exporting peppers to Canada, I'm making more money. So is it fair to say now depreciation has affected all Nigerians? Maybe you, but why you export? Somebody would ask.
For people that export, this is another aspect that we are looking at. We are fighting both fronts, inflation and naira depreciation. Now, I'm into construction. It's an example, another example that I'll give to you. Projects that we started last year, early last year, that was budgeted for 250 million. It was reviewed recently, and after reviewing it, do you know what we finally came up to? It was clocking 900 million if that project would be finished. Now, the person doing the project is outside the country. So you would have said that is their own benefit. But then, when you look at the inflation in the market, like when you get 30 tons of granite for 400,000 and 380,000 last year, by this time last year, it is currently 950,000 in the market. Now, you can get 16 diameter steel last year for 8,000 something. Currently in the market, it goes for between 35 to 40,000. So when you do the mathematics, actually, you see that even when you earn in dollars, or those people who are doing this investment sending money in dollars, you know why this one was getting to 900 and something? A board, marine board, what we have 8 by 4 feet, used to be 13,000. You know that kind of a thing. But currently it's 34,000 in the market. So even when you get the dollar to spend it here and do something meaningful, I think I've not done the mathematics, but I've not done the actual mathematics to say this percentage will cancel out this. But I'm telling you, if the project was estimated to worth 250 million and currently running close to more than 850 million, that even the client has to pause it, because a bag of cement from 4,000 naira is currently almost 8,000 naira. So when you do the mathematics, you realize that actually, even if you are earning in dollars,
gotcha,
you can still feel the heat.
All right, I hear you. Let's go to Iche. Moment. Actually, that the dollar price has really caused his network to go down. Even if you are exporting and you get the dollar, sort of balance out your books. What's your
Okay, yeah. Okay, should I go on?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, based on the question, I want to approach it as maybe somebody that provides services for people, and let me just maybe come in the form of maybe I used to get a feedback of, should I say, the current market trend in the business. So what I do, my company basically, what we do is that we provide solar, both wind and micro hydro for clients. But today, because of topography of Nigeria and maybe the way our environment is structured, we deal more with the solar aspect of it. So if you look at the way it is, if you want to ask me maybe a few years ago or even 2 years ago, maybe if by around 2 years ago or even 3 years ago, if you had something like, should I say, 850K or even 950K, you could have installed at least a standard 2.5 kVA inverter with a battery bank that could run your refrigerator, maybe run your TV and some other equipment, like just the normal electricity need of an average house in Nigeria. You could literally get that. But I can tell you that today, as of today that I'm speaking with you, you are going to struggle to get that done. Like if you really need something that can stand the test of time, 2.6 million, you are still trying to struggle to get it done.
Wait.
So that's
of 900,000, 6 million for the invert.
Yes, I'm telling you.
Is it one? Because the 1 year or time difference?
No, that's exactly because number one is that what added to all this thing is the cost of the materials. Because in a solar, what actually takes part of, let's just say, around the 98% of the total cost has to do with the equipment. So that's just it. Then another one, look at it, logistics is even a little bit, though the government and all this, the issue with multiple taxations has also come into play, but that's not even the big aspect of it. The real reason is that most of almost 100% of the equipment, they are all imported materials. For example, we are dealing with a lithium pack. If you were talking about 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, a 5.12 kilowatt, a very good one, a kilowatt pack of your lithium ion battery, you could, if you had about 450,000, that should be around 2 years ago, you can get it. But today, the same very good, we have the ones we call lower grade, you have the ones of 4,000 cycles, you have the one of 5,000 cycles, you have the one of 6K cycles, you have the one of 8K. 8K is usually the highest maximum of it. These cycles have to deal with how long that this battery can run. The ones of 8K and 6K cycle has over 10 years lifespan plus. That's why that means that if you buy it now, they can run for the next 10 years. I mean, the battery can be alive for the next 10 years before you can start thinking of changing them. So these batteries as of today, especially those of 6K and 8K life cycles, each unit.
I don't want us going to the back. What I'm making is that we produce battery. Yeah, that we're making.
No,
we have local battery that can make it.
The truth is that, forget all these things that maybe people claim that we can make this battery locally. It's not actually true. The real battery, I mean, the cells, there's what we usually call the lithium cells. There's no company that makes it in Nigeria. We usually import from China or from other Western countries. It's actually a very complex process. So what we do is that you can actually import the cells, which are not even cheap also. Then you put them together, buy what we call PMS, and install in them. So this 5 kilowatt packs today ranges from around 1.2 million to up to 2.6 million just for the battery. You have not started talking about panel and the inverter and co. So this is exactly like, I'm literally giving like a little bit example of where we are between under 2 years, a year and 2 years. That's what it is. So in an average lifespan of a Nigerian now, even for you to get the basic to run your house is very, very difficult. You must have up to that, even beyond 2.6, before you can manage to get something that can literally run your refrigerator efficiently.
The costs have gone up. Salaries gone up. Your income go up. Income go up.
Income are not going up. So I don't really think about income are not going. So that's why today I don't really think it's everybody that can literally, even the middle class, it's pretty difficult for them to afford it today. That's just the truth. But before, usually the middle class that we usually maybe have a lot of customers from them, but today is pretty difficult.
So it has to, so let me ask Mr. Oak. Mr. Oak, is there still a middle class in Nigeria? I mean, we're talking about the middle class can afford things because they have disposable income. The last time I looked at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics consumption report, it says consumption in Nigeria was zero, flat zero. This was from 2022. 2022 was zero. This was before we had the fuel increase, we had the float of Naira, it was already at zero. So, Oak, what's your take on, we've heard Iche and Chin talk about fall in consumption, people can't spend money. What's your take? Has your own economy improved in Nigeria in the last 1 year? Oak, go ahead. Mr. OAK, go ahead, you've got the floor. Okay, let me get Mr. Michael. Michael, please go ahead. Michael, what's your take? Hey guys, if you request to speak, gotta be near your mic. Michael, what's your take? Okay, let me give you guys my own take on the economy. I sent a tweet out just today, right, talking about the economic team in Nigeria, and this is sort of like representative of what's going on in Nigeria at the moment. If you take a look at the economy, you want to ask yourself, who is running the economy of Nigeria per se? Who is the economic manager? Usually, that title of the economic manager is handled by the office of the vice president. So you have the economic management team that is run off the office of the vice president of Nigeria. They are the ones that set the policy, also that implement the policy. So the president runs the country, if you want to do it that way. And then, of course, the vice president runs the actual economic management team. So the last team has been in office since 2023, of course, by the new election. The President Tinubu, created what we call the Presidential Economic Coordination Council. And these guys, their job is to ensure robust coordination of economic planning and implementation. So that's the first one Tinubu did, the Presidential Economic Coordination Council, PECC. Tinubu set that one up. Then Tinubu then set up the Economic Management Team Emergency Task Force, call it the EET. So the EET is the task force that will implement the economic policy. Then we still have the economic management team that is run by the vice president. But what they did was that the president has asked the economic management team to pause whatever they're doing, and they have handed over power to the economic emergency task force to run the economy. That's where we are right now. So the economic emergency task force are the guys that are literally running the country and are also going to be the ones that are going to implement whatsoever policy, economic policy that we have right now. So if you then ask yourself, okay, who is in this economic EET, let's put it that way. You have the coordination minister of finance, your minister of budget and planning, minister of power, minister of agriculture, minister of health, industry, the CBN governor, the NSA, the governors, and then the governors of Anambra, Ogun, and Niger State. And then you have Mr. Bismarck Rewane and Mr. Suleiman Ndanusa, and of course the advisors on energy to the president and all that. So what's the rhyme or reason? Why do we have three separate economic management teams and they are duplicated? For instance, you see the central bank governor is in one committee, is in the other committee, is in the third committee. The coordinating minister of the economy is in all three committees. The minister of commerce is in all three committees and all that. So why do we have three separate committees? Why? What's the difference between the economic management team headed by the vice president and this economic task force that is just created by the president? So you have three separate committees. And you know what happens to committees when they are created? There's death by committee. So three guys moving in different directions, even though it's for the economy. Why do you have three? What's wrong with just continuing with the economic management team and bringing you guys in there and saying, hey guys, run with the economy? Why can't the president himself run the economic team? He's created the presidential council, then he has a task force, and he's not a member of that task force that he has created. So questions I want to ask, I put the whole tweet out on my profile. If you want to go and read the real details, it's all there. It's just a lot of people have been added to run the economy, and we're not really clear on the direction these guys are going to go on. The management team, the economic management task force, was supposed to have presented a report 2 months after 2 weeks after they were inaugurated. Is it 2 months after they were inaugurated? They haven't submitted that report. So You can argue that Nigeria has no economic plan as we speak today, because we don't really have something that we can say this is what we want to achieve. Are we doing export? Are we doing import substitution? Are we doing, massive infrastructure development? We don't yet know the policy that the government wants to follow, and that's why you hear people like Total saying that Nigeria does a lot of debates, but are not actually bring out the policy and stay on that policy. So with that note, Abdurrahman, how are you doing? Welcome to the space. Abdurrahman, where are you calling in from?
Good evening, Mr. Kalu. I'm calling in from Sokoto State, actually.
Great. How is Sokoto? How is your economy? How is Sokoto? How are you guys faring? Should we say up north? Is the economy of the north doing better in the last 1 year? What's your take?
No. It's not. It's not, because the food inflation here has gone beyond my thoughts. In fact, we used to buy a mudu. A mudu is around 1 kg, 1.5 to 3. The weight of the mudu, used to buy a mudu of rice for 1,200, but today is 3,200 for the local rice, and for the foreign one is 4,300. So it is not easy, honestly. And actually, as a farmer, I farm rice, I farm maize. There are some reasons why the cost here is high, and but one of the reasons, because the cost of input is as well high. But to give you a brief story as to why it was high, what happened is that the rice farmers here, the naira crashed, so they find it lucrative selling to Niger Republic, because the currency of Niger Republic is higher than the Nigerian currency. So they sell them. In that, they exported large quantity, and the production here in Sokoto is not high. We usually bring the paddy rice from Kebbi, 60% to 70% from Kebbi State to here, and process, mostly from Argungu local government. So you see that we don't produce here, and we're exporting nearly everything we bring from Argungu and we process here. So in that case, there was shortage here, and that shortage led to that price. So these are the issues.
But let me ask you a question. But there's always been exports from the north to Niger. Are you saying the exports have increased because the dollar, the devaluation made more exports to happen from Nigeria to Niger?
No, let me say, there was issue between Tinubu and the Niger due to the military junta. So when they closed down the border from the Niger side and here, exporting from here became even more lucrative, because there, they know the kind of suffering you suffer to get it there, so they buy it higher with value, and that caused inflation even there in Niger. I don't know if maybe that will answer the question well.
You're right. So in effect, the people of Niger have a higher purchasing power than the people of Nigeria, and are able to buy our food from Nigeria simply because their currency is stronger. That's the gist of what I'm getting.
Exactly. Yes. Because the currency is a bit stronger. And talking from the perspective of farmer, you see, we used to do tractor work, not more than 100,000. But as I'm speaking to you yesterday, I paid 550,000 naira just for a tractor work of 20 hectares. It's about 19.8 or thereabout, but sum it up as 20. So you see, there's no way I will pay that amount, and you expect food to be cheap. And when you talk with the tractor owners, they complain to you bitterly about diesel price, about so on and so forth, and you don't have a choice because you've already set up your mind that you do the farming. So the cost of input is very high online, very high.
So in essence, the summary is that in 1 year, your economy, quote unquote, has not performed as well as you'd have expected. What do you think the government can do? Like 1 or 2 points that the government can do that can turn around the situation? I know you're not an economist or anything like that, but what do you think they can do? Just turn off your hand. What do you think?
Well, what I think is let the cost of production be subsidized instead of consumption. When you subsidize the productivity aspect, at the end, I have the belief that the consumption part will be better off, and let the government try and improve the capability. I mean, the purchasing power of the people. In there are ways to do it, I believe. So if the government can subsidize the productivity, the cost of input is too high. If they can subsidize it so that we can be able to produce food cheaply and also work towards making the people to be able to afford it, I think that would be great. Honestly, that would be easy.
Last question for you. People are also saying that the bandits are causing food supply to fall because farmers are not farming enough as much as they would have. Is the banditry also an issue with reduced supply? I heard you mention foreign rice was in Nigeria as well. So are the banditry also an issue in Nigeria?
Bandit is hugely an issue. Now, I'm in Sokoto here in Zamfara, in Maradun. Last week, I heard how over 140 million people were kidnapped in Maradun here. And the Minister of Defense is from Maradun. How can you kidnap such number of people? And about 8 people were severely injured. Perhaps the case might even be underreported since I'm not there to verify. But I have a classmate who is from there and even related to the minister himself. So honestly, the issue of banditry is not a joke. I see the bandits can operate a drone now. Bandits operating drone in Zamfara State. So it has gone beyond.
The way bandits operating drones.
Yes. Bandits operate drone. They are operating drones. They can operate it. So how do you know
it's bandits?
Yes, the reason why I know it's bandit is because one, the handle that posted it is a verified handle that is continuously every single day they post on the updates of everything that is concerning banditry and insecurity, and is well verified. It's legit. That's one. Two, I have seen someone I know, and the person is actually a bandit, and is a popular bandit. I've seen him in the video celebrating, chanting, and shouting, and what have you. So this why I concluded that these are bandits.
Interesting take up the Rahman. Very, very interesting. Sometimes we sit in the cities and on Twitter and we talk, but I think you've given us a sense of what's really happening in those areas that sometimes we don't have access to. Appreciate you contributing. Please hang it out. Someone might have a question for you. I see a lot of questions on DM. People want to ask. Let me just read them. Please hang out and I'll come back to you. Oak, how you doing, sir? What's your take in terms of the economy of Nigeria? Has your economy improved? What's your take? Let's start from there. OAK, second time I'm adding you. You're not speaking. Let me get to Chinedu. Chinedu, please go ahead. The hand is up. Yeah, Chinedu, please go ahead.
Sorry. So sorry. Ibrahim has touched part of what I wanted to ask. Then I'll come back with another question for him. You can pass the mic to another person.
Gosh, it's time to go to the DMs real quick. Kalu, this topic is a simple topic. Everybody in Nigeria is feeling the effect of a bad economy. Apart from that, naira devaluation, all the costs have gone up. Fuel, diesel, power, education, rent, everything is up, and salaries are not keeping pace with inflation. I don't want to complain. I don't want to talk. Please hide my handle. But things are not rosy, and we all know it. Okay, that's from I'll hide your handle. Oak, your hand is up. Do you want to contribute, or let me just read more DMs? Yes, Kalu, thanks for the topic. Yes, the economy is biting hard. I try to export. It is very difficult. They are charging me lots of fees before I can even get into the business. So I'm paying before I can even export. So the naira fall is not beneficial to me. The government should try to make export easier. so more of us can export and earn dollars. Okay, good point there. Yeah, let me see. That was nice when I saw here. Carlo, yes, I'm an SME. What's it? I use my retirement funds to start a business, printing business. I didn't want to borrow money from the bank. I used my retirement money to start a printing business. Right now, I had to shut it down because I'm getting orders to print. But when I print, the selling price, I cannot cover my overheads. So when I use generator and the rest to sell, I cannot cover overhead. So I have to shut down the business for now till things get better. Wow. All right. Oh, those are a few comments from the DM. Folks are complaining. It's the same thing. Everyone's talking about the cost of doing business. This guy wrote this tweet about the shutting down your printing press. Please try to request to speak. I want to talk to you more about this. How many people are you employing in this printing press? What year did you start the printing press? Why can't you just if you can request to speak or come back on DM? I have a few questions for you. Oak, third time, Mr. Oak ACU. Please go ahead and speak or fix your mic. Go ahead, sir. All right, we're going to leave you and move on. All right, so guys, let's talk about, again, another thing I want to talk about is this issue of inflation in Nigeria. No country, Nigeria's inflation or official inflation is right now about 33%. 33%, that's the headline. 33%. Food inflation is more than 40%. You've heard Abdurrahman say this. There's a direct correlation between the inflation in Nigeria and the cost of everything you buy in Nigeria. Everything. Your cost of doing business, the cost of PMS, the cost of diesel. The problem with inflation in my mind in Nigeria is not that it's high, is that every month it's going up and up and up. So what has happened is that the expectation of inflation in Nigeria is now driving inflation as much as the real core headline prices. What I mean is this: any trader in Nigeria is now adding the cost of inflation to his prices. Oh, just hold on, because he believes that next quarter or next month inflation will go up. So we now have a vicious circle where costs are going up and up and up, not because prices are going up, because the expectation of inflation is up and up and up. So that's the big problem for us. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good evening. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
How is Port Harcourt? Are you guys resolving your fights between the governor and the? Is it still on?
So, political aspect of my life, I'm trying to cut it down a little bit. I'm focusing majorly on the economic impact. The inflation is really stressing a lot of us out.
Good. So how economy been this last 12 months? What would you say?
I think it's terrible. It's outrageous, for saying the least. We knew it would come down to this, but we never expected it to be this fast. And
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, because of we know the people that got into the government, they're not ready, they're not prepared for what is ahead. We knew they're not ready to tackle what is on ground. So we just be observing and see if they can have a reshuffle to bring the right people on board to see how they can salvage the situation. So from my own aspect, my economic situation, I think it's improved, but it's improved considerably to a certain extent because of the job I was doing. But the company leaving and those that are about to leave really punctured some of our activities. So I would say that the middle class is really being hit hard. I bought a piece of land. I was supposed to develop it. I couldn't because of the price of cement and the building material. I ought to invest in one or two things. I post it. The money has been put into, I would say, more or less service consumption, paying of school fees for relatives. So the inflation is really biting most of us who are capable. And
gotcha.
Sir?
But I want to go back to this issue of do you think, is there a correlation between the dysfunctional political situation in Rivers State and the economy in Rivers State? Because Rivers State has a lot of money. I think Rivers State, after Lagos, is the state with the highest IGR, highest positive net spending. So do you think that there's a correlation between that lack of political direction and the economic situation in Rivers State? Is it all federal, or does Rivers State have a hand to play in what's going on with you? What do you think? Is it all federal, or should we blame the state as well?
I think what we are going through is, I can say it's more or less federal. It's related to federal. It's not about the states. The state's political issue is not the cause of inflation. Regardless of the money they say that River State have, I think we are not really. It's not being shared to the people. It's not being shared to the people. There's no way the state will be responsible for the inflation. The political climate will be responsible for the price of the high cost of diesel or the lack of electricity that will help people that are manufacturing or running businesses to make profits. I don't think the political climate here contributes to any of those things. It's the federal. What is happening here is just what I say is just pure politics. Those who want to hold the political, which one will I use?
Yeah. But if I'm an investor and I want to invest in Nigeria, there's no country. Let me use my words very carefully. Nigeria does not exist if the states don't exist. If I'm investing in Nigeria, I'm investing in a state in Nigeria. Nigeria are not functional, then there's no Nigeria. So I don't invest in Nigeria. I invest in Ogun State or Rivers State or so on. So if the state don't function, if Rivers State that contributes a big part is working.
Hello?
Your audio is very, very, very off. I think we get the point. So I'm just trying to stress that topic a bit. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
I appreciate you talking. Yeah. So, again, it's also important that when we are talking, we almost have to bring in the states into this equation. We have to bring the states into this equation because many times in Nigeria, the state governors get a pass and everybody does focus on the federal government. States get 52% of the FRAC allocation, which means that the federal gets about less than them. The states get that allocation. They are supposed to then share that money to local governments. Development starts from the local government. Every home in Nigeria, if you open your front door or your front gate, that road in front of your gate, that's quote unquote gutter in front of your home, is run by the local government, not the state. The road in front of your house, the gutter in front of your house is run by the local government. The primary school in your local government, according to the constitution, should be run by the local government, not the state, the local government. But Nigeria has sort of tilted everything funny in such a way that the federal government is paying salaries of primary school teachers. So you have the NUT, Nigerian Union of Teachers, that would go on strike if you intend to move the schools, back to states and local governments. But if we don't hold the local governments and the states to account, nothing can happen. You look at Rivers State, I was asking gentlemen about Rivers State, but look at a state like Abia State, where the governor, just by building roads, again, let me just say this up front, I'm from Abia State. I don't think it should be celebrated that the governor is building roads. But this guy is building roads, and you can see a lot of praise he's getting. Why? Because for 24 years, no roads were built in Abia. So if somebody is drowning and you rescue him, you can't say, oh, you rescued me with a bad life jacket. I rescued you. The guy is rescuing the state. Hence, he's being celebrated. So if it's that simple to build something and get praise, why aren't all the state governors building roads? Some are now seeing that, listen, if I do infrastructure, I get the praise. But why do we have to praise governors that we give money to? This is not tax revenue. This is FAC revenues and oil revenues. They go out and they do what they are supposed to do. It's like you do what you're supposed to do, then you get all this praise. Where if you look at the bigger states, a state like Lagos, for instance, you go online every day, you see lots of pictures. Lagos is doing this, Lagos is doing that. The economy of Lagos State is larger than the economy of West Africa. If you take away Nigeria, Lagos State, if Lagos State was a country, it would be larger than the economy of the whole of maybe West Africa. Can you compare the infrastructure, the Human Development Index in Lagos State to say Togo or Lomé or even Senegal? If you've gone to those countries, you know what I mean. Even Gambia, they're not as rich as Nigerians are, but what they have and they maintain. So if you compare the standard of living, many Nigerians are now going to school in Ghana. Lots of Nigerians are schooling in Ghana. Lots of Nigerians go to Ghana for medical checkup. Lots of also go for holidays in Togo and Benin. We are richer than those countries, but we're going to those countries to do things that we can do in-house. Why are we really celebrating this giant of states? We have this, we have that, when we should be doing more. Lagos just got a light rail in 2023, 2024. But we have a larger economy. So it's like in the land of the blind, the one-eyed king, one-eyed man is the king. That's what I'm seeing in Nigeria. If you look at the GDP per capita, if we come back to economics, the GDP per capita of Nigeria, we are back to where we were from 1960. So if you plot the graph, everyone has grown in terms of per capita growth, but Nigeria has stagnated back to where we started off from. The GDP per capita of Nigeria was larger than the GDP per capita of China as at 1970. So just so you understand, Nigeria got independence in 1960. China was already a country well before then. But from 1960 to 1970, the GDP per capita of Nigeria was higher than the GDP per capita of China. And if you reverse it now, most of the problem Nigeria has today is because Nigeria cannot get loans from China to build our rails, our roads, and all that. That's what killed the Buhari administration. China stopped lending them money, and they couldn't borrow anymore. That's really what happened. So without China, we can do nothing. It's the same country in 1970 we were richer than. So what happened? And as 1 year has gone past this administration, 7 trillion spent on what's it called? We spent 7 trillion on ways and means. We've gone back to that. We borrowed a lot of money. What do we have to show for it? Our GDP per capita is falling. Our economic growth is stalling. Inflation is increasing. Foreign reserves are going down. Can we name any major investment, FDI, that has been attracted by this administration to Nigeria? Any major one that has come that we know it is real, they've come and they're going to do business in Nigeria. We can name ones that are going out. Last week we heard Total was taking 6 billion away from Nigeria to are going to invest 6 billion. Nigeria was in the running. Now they're going to Angola and all that. So really, what's happening with the country? Are we moving forward? Are there bright spots that we can really hang on to? It's difficult to say. Graceful, you've got the mic. What's your mic? Graceful, you've got the mic. If you're getting busy, let's get Didi. Didi, what's on your mind, Didi?
Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Okay, I just want to thank Mr. Kano for a wonderful job he does on Twitter or X. I mean, I've been following him for a while, and he's really, really very versatile and knowledgeable when it comes to economics. So my own contribution or my own question is this, Mr. Kano. As I just joined a couple of minutes ago, I want to know, even if we get all this money into the economy, maybe we get all the loans we want, everything we want, our GDP per capital is increased, and we still have a lot of leaks, a lot of holes. Like when I mean corruption, people are still siphoning the money. Do you think Nigeria is actually going to progress, even if we get all these loans and everything we need to build the economy? Thank you. That's, yeah.
Of course not. I mean, it's one thing to get the money in, and quite nothing to invest the money. You know, remember that in the last 8 years of Buhari's administration, we printed 23 trillion. This is minus the loans. So minus the loans, if you convert that 23 trillion to dollars as of the exchange rate back then, what Buhari printed in dollar terms was 50 billion United States dollars. 50 billion with a B, United States dollars. So you want to ask yourself a question. Even in America, go to Houston and you spend 50 billion. Don't you see it in any American city? In any American city, you spend 50 billion United States dollars. You will see it now. It will show up somewhere. But here we spent 50 billion. We can't account for even where the money went to. We can't. This is minus the borrowing. The borrowing, he increased borrowings by a massive amount, both local and foreign. He borrowed, he printed, and yet you go around every major road in Nigeria, there are potholes, we still don't have power supply, there is no local government area in Nigeria with 24 hours drinking water from the public taps. None. Yet we spent $50 billion. If you give Rwanda $50 billion, you'll see it show up somewhere in their economy. So people say, hey, Rwanda is small population. Okay, what of China? What of China? You can't say when we mention Rwanda, they have small population. What of China? They were 1970, we were richer than them. Today, they're richer than us. I don't know. So, did it answer your question?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Mr. Carlo. Thank you so much.
Yeah, enjoy yourself, did it? Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Dr. Opiere, how are you doing, sir? Welcome to the
platform. I'm fine, my brother. Happy Sunday, Jare.
Happy Sunday to you. Happy 1-year anniversary of the.
My brother.
What's your take? We've had 1 year. If we were given the administration, we're going to score them. What would you score these guys, economic-wise?
I will score them. Sincerely, I will score them 5%. 5%.
Okay,
5 over 100, yes. 5% of 100. And that 5%, I will explain to you. 95% of our problem is physical problem. Is from the physical side. And 95% of that problem, they are not even making any direction. They are not even doing anything to solve it. I will take the specific. Security. When they came to power, they promised us that they were going to fix the insecurity in Nigeria. Carlo, just yesterday in Niger State, 200 people were kidnapped after the bandits murdered 7. Insecurity in Nigeria, they are not even. It's as if Nigeria is actually on a free float in terms of insecurity. It's getting worse and worse by the day, and they are not doing anything. Now, of course, we have suggested ways in which they can face insecurity. Carlo, it is no skyrocket science what we can do. Security is indigenous, and we have told them what to do. These bandits are not ghosts. You see them every day. The other day I was watching a clip of them flying a drone, and they were carrying their RPGs and machine guns and trucks. Carlo, these bandits are not more than 10,000. They are not even. I don't even think they are up to 5,000 because you see their numbers and all those stuff. How do we tackle them? Very simple. The current security architecture, Carlo, will not work. Practically, they've been compromised massively. There is no part of Nigeria that have not been compromised criminally. So anybody expecting the insecurity to stop or to even subside with the current security architecture in Nigeria, even if you pump $20 billion, there is you're actually sinking money into the pocket of criminals. How do we fix it? And we've suggested and we've advised them. Very simple. Take security back to the communities. It worked for us between 1960 to 1970. Go and ask anybody. Before the advent of the Civil War, there was nothing like armed robbery. There was nothing like kidnapping, banditry, insurgency, or whatever. Do you know why? the regions had a physical arrangement that gave them semi-autonomy. Everybody controlled their own resources. They had their own security outfits, which they funded directly and they equipped. In fact, in 1965, when they had skirmishes in one of the Central African countries, and they were looking to send in security agents, they didn't ask for the Nigerian army. They didn't ask for the federal police. They requested for the police of the old Eastern Nigeria, which was more efficient than even the federal police. So basically, if we want to fix insecurity, very simple. Mr. President said he was going to recruit 50 million children and give them ewa, abado, and cassava. We don't need him employing 50 million people. He's just go back to the communities. We have in Nigeria today 8,809 electoral wards. And these wards are made up of indigenous communities. Go to each of the wards, ask them to donate, not the ones from politicians, ask the communities, the missions, the traditional rulers, the people, to donate 100 of their sons each. Let me tell you, Carlo, every community knows those who are the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not urchins, educated graduates, 100 of them. Pick those 100. If you multiply 100 from each 8,809 electoral ward, we're talking about 880,000 people. And I will tell you this, the numbers of how it's going to be funded is going to require about $3.75 billion to equip them. I will give you specifics. It's going to require $1.65 billion recurrent expenditure.
Also, the dollars.
Yeah. In dollars, yes. So basically, get them, train them. Now, I'm not an advocate of state police because the governors, most of them are criminals. They will abuse it. So you train them. After you have trained them, 6 months training, get them to receive intelligence, train them after training, and they will be on a very good special salary scale. And their funding is not going to come under the physical we're going to stop an education, security trust fund that is going to be used to fund this. And remember that under Buhari, we wasted $27 billion, and yet insecurity first start. So somebody will ask you, how are we going to fund it? Carlo, in Nigeria today, every month we will lose $1.9 billion worth of crude oil to thieves, big thieves. And then we awarded contracts to people to protect the pipeline. They cannot protect it because they don't even know where the pipelines are. Under this arrangement, people will protect their pipeline and they will have a share of the profit from whatever business they were doing, and they will protect it. Now, when you have trained them, you send them back to their communities. How are they going to equip them? Get Innocent, get Proforce, get Nord, the Norwegian company. They will provide for us 4 armored personnel carriers in every local government area, 3 motorized mounted machine guns, and then 40 motorcycles in every of the electoral wards, and 2 trucks, innocent trucks. And we will equip these guys, provide them with intelligence, provide them with drone. And then we are going to set up, just like we have in Netherlands, we are going to set up agro clusters, industrial clusters in every of the electoral ward. Agro-industrial clusters where we will process unique agro products, unique to such environments. Those that can do rice will do rice. Those that can do cocoa will do cocoa. Those that can do palm will do palm. Those that can do date plantation will do date plantation. Carl, we've done the numbers. It will require, it will not take us anything. And it's a mission, community diaspora, private, public. Now, Carl, I want to ask you this question. That local government area where those kidnappers moved in to kill people and kidnap 200, or the one that happened in Kankara or Plateau State, or even Nimbo. If you come to a local government area, now let me tell you, the security architecture is criminally corrupt. Why do we put these people back to their community? If I come from a local government area called Okigwe that has 11 wards, if you have 100 youths from each of those wards, 1,100, with 4 armored personnel carriers, 3 mounted machine gun trucks, and this kind of arrangement, let me tell you, Carlo, in 3 months, what is 3 months? In 2 months, every inch of the forest in Okigwe local government area, whether you're non-government or you're a bandit or you're a criminal or you're this one, they will flush you out. In fact, it's either they dispatch you to devil your father or you will run away. And it's very simple. When you have 8, and of course, these people are related. When you push people back to their communities, they're protecting their fathers. They are protecting their mothers. They are protecting their wives and children. So there will be no economic motivation or religious motivation that will make a man allow you to rape his daughter and kidnap his daughter. It's not possible now. So basically, and we will use them to protect those agro clusters that can give us nothing less than $120 billion. But Carlo, do you know why? This suggestion, And we've done the numbers of how these things are going to be funded. Fixed cost. Carlo, do we know how much we have? Like we mentioned now, we printed 23 trillion naira and borrowed 27 trillion naira domestically. We have borrowed, we spent over 80 billion. Carlo, if we have, okay, look at the one they want to do, Coastal Road. Out of the 15 trillion naira, $13 billion they want to squander and want to loot. If they take a part of this to fund the capital expenditure of this, give these guys AK-47, rocket, and of course they are going to be reporting to the office, not under normal military high command, is already corrupted. They are going to be reporting to a special security committee under a private-public partnership arrangement chaired by the Office of the National Security Advisor. And then the command of this arrangement is going to be watertight. It's going to be zonal. Each of the zonal command will be independent so that nobody manipulates them from the state level or from the national level. But why we do it that way, such as we don't hand over guns to non-state actors who may go rogue. So, Carlos, what is so difficult about this? But you know why they will not do it? If we have insecurity slayed in Nigeria and everywhere is quiet, people can go about their normal duties 24/7. The criminal mining in the north will no longer happen. The oil and gas theft in the south will never happen. The criminals who are masquerading as unknown gunmen in the southeast will no longer have any business. And those politicians using them to destabilize the environment so they can rig election will no longer have a hiding place. So these guys, they know what to do. So insecurity, I score them 0. In fact, it doesn't take more than 0, I score them. Then on the issue of oil and gas, Carlo, I've never seen a criminal enterprise like we have in our oil and gas industry. Go and check the records. When Obasanjo became president, oil prices was $17.37. Our output was 1.6 million. Obasanjo wrapped it up to 2 million barrels a day. Throughout Obasanjo's tenure, crude oil price never went above $42. Go and check it. Yet Obasanjo was able to solve our problems, pay off our debt, and left behind $47 billion extra. Do you know why? Obasanjo never allowed leakages. Of course, he's a very strong man. Jonathan came up and ramped it up to 2.5. At a time, if you go to CBN, I ask us, go to CBN website, click, you will see it there. Oil output every month from 1999 now, you will see it still on CBN website. At a time in August 2010, we are doing 2.8 million barrels a day. And you know that even at that time, we were doing 2.8 million barrels. Oshibanjo was accusing Jonathan and Desiani of stealing 400,000 barrels every day. Now, Buhari became president and they began to steal our crude oil like no man business. When Buhari left, anybody thinking, people used to boast that he works in oil and gas business. It is so obvious to Nigerians that they know that our oil and gas industry was a cesspool of corruption. Do you know that between the year 2000 to 2009, go and check, Nigerian PMS daily import and consumption figures was never above 2.28 million liters a day. In fact, in 2010, when Desgani and those marketers did Ponzi game and moved the number to 47 million liters to 52 million liters a day, National Assembly installed a probe and they discovered that it was only 29 million liters that they were consuming. Others were Ponzi. People are still turning point today. But Buhari became president, the number went up to 50, 60, 70 million, 63 million. In fact, you don't even know that the one that shocked me. Even when they said they removed subsidy in August 2023, they told us that the consumption came down to 39 million liters, which of course we know is not true. Our consumption is actually between 32 and 8 million liters a day. But do you know what happened? Can you go and check the records? January, February this year, 2024, NNPC claimed in 59 days that they imported 2.7 million tons of PMS, which is 3.6 billion liters, which is equivalent of 61.3 million liters a day consumption, and they spent $2.16 billion. And everybody knows it is not true. If you look at the U.S. Energy Administration Agency, all the volume of products that came into every country in the whole world, you will see it tallied. All the neighboring countries that surround Nigeria, the 6 of them, do not consume up to 10 million liters a day. You know, these guys think they are playing with. And the same man the same criminal gang that Buhari kept with him, this man became president, and we expected him to sack most of them clear the stable in NPC, clear the stable in NDPRA. The man left them there. Remember, they've been kicking the refinery down the road. They said they will open it August. They never opened it December. Today, now, they're pushing it down to July. In the oil and gas sector, Carlo Total is going to Angola. I scored them -10. In fact, if there's anything worse than -10, I scored them. Is it in the area of productivity, not diversification of non-oil revenue? Carlo, As of today, food production in Nigeria has reduced by 60%. Do you know why? Domestic production, because of insecurity. Farmers are not going to the farm. And I give you an example. My old mother in the village, every year, I normally send him money to cultivate at least 6 hectares of cassava and the maize. But for the past 2 years, I had to ferry my mother out of work because of insecurity. Those 6 hectares are no longer being done. And I can tell you, it is the same thing across board. For those of us who are still crying that food inflation is almost about 60% on books, I know it's 100%. By the last quarter of this year, entering next year is going to get worse. So tell me, from whichever angle you look at it, there is no indicator that shows you that, in fact, we are moving even, we are retrogressing badly, worse than we even imagined it. The only little glimmer of hope is the CBN. And the CBN itself is grappling in dark, because if the only instrument available for them now is to raise MPR, they've raised MPR to 26.5%. Why are they doing it? So that they can attract foreign portfolio investors. Hot money. Of course, those guys are smart. They are not foolish people. Before they bring in their dollar, they will swap it with you. They will tell you, I am bringing this dollar, this amount of dollar. I am going to take it out as also exchange rate. And you must give me at this. And they will bring in their money. And of course, some of them will play their instrument with commercial banks in their countries, like Japan, where MPR is minus 1, 0.1. A smart hedge fund who can take $1 billion, pledge their instrument there, come to Nigeria, buy T-bills. 360 days, the guy goes back. And we are going to pay whether we like it or not. Under Buhari, external debt moved from $10 billion to $42 billion. Today, now it's almost about $47 billion. The new government have borrowed about $5 billion. It will be paid. And how are we going to pay it? The only source of non-oil revenue, dollar revenue, 95% is crude oil. And the crude oil, we are not producing more than 1.3 million barrels a day. When we have capacity to 1.5 million, 2.5 million barrels a day. So, Carlo, Nigerians are not faring better by any indices, by any indicator. If I'm Yemi Cardoso, if oil output does not go up by up to 1.7, 1.8 million by next month, when I'm having the NPC, I'll move my MPR to 30%. That is the only way. And let me tell you, and I said to you, if you have your dollar, keep it close, just hold it tight. Because these guys on the physical side are reckless, they are corrupt, they are not doing anything. If anybody had told me that those guys in the oil and gas industry are still there, I would still be shocked. Brazil, oil reserve, 15.5 billion barrels. Less than 30% of our own reserve, at 7 billion barrels. Petrobras was founded in 1970, years after the Nigerian National Oil Corporation, that later metamorphosed into NNPC. Today, Petrobras, their total asset is $174 billion. NNPC is struggling to get $60 billion. Their crude oil output every day is 2.3 million barrels. Their profit last year was $37 billion. Their revenue was $121 billion. Imagine if NNPC is bringing $121 billion into this economy annually. You think dollar and naira would be, it would have been about 300 or even 200 to $1. But the truth that most of this is are being stolen and people are clapping. There's nothing out there. And they know this truth. They know this fact. And they are not doing anything about it. Let nobody deceive you. It will get worse, so it will pour.
Doc, I want you to allow us to, you give us a textbook and a PhD lecture, plus lots of information. I want us to absorb it now. My DMs are blowing up. People are asking so many questions to ask you. First of all, thank you for that. I think you bring it in. You brought in the economy, even your mom, talking about how your mom is in the village, farming, contributing to output, but it's now no longer which is contributing to inflation. Talking about the security architecture, facts and figures, how we can, counter this. Very, very well put, sir. Very, very well put. I think if we close the space now, we've had enough from you. I applaud the passion, sir. Very, very well. Let me make this point. Again, you made a point. Make this point. Stanley Abacha, military president, or military head of state that came, we had the Abacha loot. That is the Abacha did PTF, Petroleum Trust Fund, when oil price was at about 38, 36, 46. Oil price did not go to 50. Only in 1996, I think oil price be 1. But Abacha increased oil prices, and most of the infrastructure, even till today, that we have in Nigeria, even till today, we are from the increase of oil prices, taking the PT and PTF doing infrastructure in Nigeria, even till today, 2024, years ago. Why is it that we cannot see that tangible revenues coming from the increase or the removal of subsidies back to infrastructure in Nigeria? Why are we not seeing Dr. Gary? Why?
Carl, we are not seeing it because the monies, the funds are being stolen. Do you know there was even a time in this country that no money was coming into the federal account? And the worst thing that happened there are these governors. These governors, even the National Assembly, because of course when Saraki was Senate president, of course he was asking questions. When Pius Anim was Senate president, he was asking questions. When Kalin Abba was in the House of Rep, they were asking questions. It was, why do you think we were able to unlock the criminality that happened under the Ziani? Because National Assembly then, we are independent. They launched their own probe, and many people were jailed, and some are still paying money. Carlo, let me tell you what will shock you. The oil wells that we are producing 2.5 million barrels, 2.6 million barrels, do you think those oil wells just dried up? Even if they dried up, you remember they wasted $3 billion. Buhari wasted $3 billion looking for oil wells somewhere in the Middle Belt.
Yeah.
That money had been wasted. They've looted that money, and there's no drop of oil that will recover from that place. Let me tell you, the level of criminality that happened in the oil and gas industry. I was talking with a guy who works in Aramco. I think I said Aramco has 15,000 kilometer pipeline in very vast environment. Nobody will tell you. You have never heard anywhere in the whole world, even Angola, that a liter of crude oil was stolen. It's only in Nigeria that they steal crude oil like sweet. Do you know that NNPC has a digital platform where they see every inch of the areas of Nigerian waters and land? Who's switching it off? The same way they switch IRF off. And that is what is happening here. See, let me tell you, if the current government was serious, the first thing they would have done was to do massive clearance of those Buhari-era employees and the leadership of NNPC and NNDPRA. And they allowed it. But how can any human being? Look at Brazil. Is it that Brazil is less corrupt than Nigerians? No, Brazilians are as corrupt as Nigerians. But the Brazilians discovered, like Obasanjo discovered in 2007 when he privatized NNPC. Obasanjo knew that allowing NNPC to be under public sector control, the refineries, will keep on breeding corruption. And he privatized it. What Brazil did was very simple. Brazilian government discovered Aramco was not making profit the way they were making after the first 10 years. They divested. The only share of the Brazilian government in Petrobras is 28.5%. The rest are different other investors. And they listed it on the floor of the Brazilian Stock Exchange. These guys are busy borrowing money when they know what to do because they don't want to loosen their hold on this slush criminal enterprise that they are managing. Why is Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas the only public corporation that does not have this kind of record of corruption like NNPC? Because it is 51% controlled by private sector investors and 49% by NNPC. So they do not control appointment into the board and management, and it is shielded from their criminality. If these people are serious, what they will have done is very simple. We have advised them on what to do, and it's the simplest thing. Aramco has done it. Petrobras has done it. Emirates Oil has done it. Very simple. Get JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, pair them with Stanbic IBTC, even with Don Laurent Merrifield and the Chapu Hideham as local book runners. Let me tell you what will happen. Value NNPC is 60 billion thereabout. Do a hybrid of offer for sale and IPO. Offer for sale, let the federal government divest 60% of their shareholding in NNPC. That will unlock about $40 billion into the federal account. Do offer IPO of $20 billion. That will unlock additional $60 billion. If we have $60 billion fund at the CBN, all the speculators will start dumping their dollar. You will see that come down to $3 to $1. And what will happen? Because there is transparency now. Nobody will stay in his parlor and begin to appoint the chairman of NNPC or the board of NNPC or somebody in the National Assembly will be extorting money from any of those subsidiaries under NNPC. Let me tell you, Carlo, if it is listed on the floor of the exchange and we say we want to raise $30 billion to explore new oil field or to increase our oil reserve to 40 billion barrels. 40 billion barrels. Even if they float bond attached to the oil and gas, Nigerians will subscribe to it. Even if they decide to do new IPO, new issue of $30 billion, Carl, I will subscribe. I know you will subscribe. Because oil and gas industry is where to go. Beyond the crude oil, there is a finalist and every value chain to work across the whole line. But this, you don't know why they won't do it. Obasanjo was able to muster courage to do it because Obasanjo understood he was a very strong man. I know. These guys know what I'm telling you. It's the right way to go. Brazilians did it. Only reserve of Brazil is 15.5 billion barrels. Nigeria is 7 billion barrels. Yet, look and see what Petrobras is doing. If we have $121 billion coming into Nigeria and the monies are not, because if they do this thing, nobody will divert any of our crude oil revenues. And if they employ the kind of security arrangement we have asked them to do, let the communities control their security. For those that get them amphibious vessels to man their waters, and the communities will protect their land, and they will get paid. And these people will be paid 150K every month. These people that will man this thing, and they will have life insurance cover, and they will have pension fund cover and everything, and you will insure them. Let me tell you what will happen. Nobody will steal a liter of our crude oil. Then the truth is, they know what they are doing. They know this is the best way to go. They know that if they do this thing, Nigeria oil and gas industry will balloon. If they do this thing, the non-oil sector will become productive. Do you know that if we put these agro rangers in place, or the oil and gas rangers in place, in the north alone, we can develop 1 million hectares of date palm plantation that can give us $12.7 billion every year. In the southeast and south-south, we can develop 280,000 hectares of Tenera palm plantation that will give us nothing less than $13 billion. So in the southwest and the middle belt and the southeast, we can develop nothing less than 200,000 to 300,000 hectares of new cocoa plantation that will give us nothing less than $13 billion. Let me tell you, we've done the numbers. On the dairy sector, we can unlock over $12 billion from that angle because there is security. Nigeria can actually become a $1 trillion economy in 5 years if we have the right leadership. But the problem we have across the 3 tiers and 3 arms of government, we are being ruled by bandits. We are being ruled by heartless, brainless, unthinking, or non-visionary criminals. 99% criminals.
Oh my God, Doc Obiari, you want to. Okay, I hear you, Doc. I think passion challenged. I think you give that passion with information. I think again, my DMs are blowing up. Yes, that's you can follow him. He's been here as a guest many times, and I like that he gives the passion, but he gives the numbers. And what he's saying is the fact. We all know it. Anything that has N or government in Nigeria does not work. NNPC and Nigerian Liquid Natural Gas, what's the difference? NNPC is government. Nigerian Liquid Natural Gas is not government. Look at their performance. If Nigerian Liquid Natural Gas was owned by the federal government of Nigeria, they will be on train 1 today. Train 1, that's what they'll be, train 1 today. And they'll be owing money. They'll be owing money on train 1. Doc, please hang out there.
Carlo, do you know that if NNPC was like Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas, in fact, the highest the management will have stayed is 1 year, they will have been sacked. No, but okay, let me tell you. Imagine, okay, Tony Limolo has health energy, and Tony Limolo bought oil field that was giving him, assuming he was giving him 10,000 barrels a day, and then he implanted an empty that is now giving 5,000 barrels after 1 year. Tony will start to even jail you.
No, of course not. But I mean, the point that if NNPC was not owned by the Nigerian government, they would be like Aramco.
Yes, now.
Dollars today. Nigerians are subsidizing NNPC. Nigerians are subsidizing NNPC. This is the only oil company in this world that the citizens are subsidizing the oil company. Now, it's crazy because it's an ATM machine. NNPC is building hospitals. They are importing fuel. They bought fighter jets a few years ago for the army or whatever. So it's a huge slush fund. So unless you take them out of the control of the government, nothing will change. Let's get some of that folks in here. I've had some folks that have been waiting to speak. MP, this was him. MP who knows Don. Can you guys have simple Twitter names? Mr. Don, do you want to speak? Epifano 046622. You guys should have simple Twitter names. Do you want to speak, sir?
Okay, yeah, good
Please go ahead. Hurry.
Okay, I just have to ask a question.
Go ahead.
I just how like these guys are like borrowing money to subsidize dollar and all that. So I've been worried how what's their plan?
Please hold. Hold on. Please go. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So I don't know the status of the news. If what's their plan? Maybe borrowing money to subsidize dollar, and later on how do they make up to that to pay off the debt? So what impact how that will be? How will it impact on the positivity of the economy? Or because to me, I think we're still going to fall back to where we are. So what are their plans to?
Yeah, that's what, if you notice, Doc has spoken about that, and I've spoken about that a lot on my Twitter space. What he's asking folks is that the Central Bank of Nigeria basically has borrowed monies through what we call foreign portfolio investment. They've issued out securities to borrow dollars, and they used a bit of those dollars to then sell subsidized dollars to the BDCs. So the idea back then was to try to raise the value of the naira by selling dollars. So when you sell dollars, naira will rise. They did that, and they did it at a lower rate than the market, so they would push the market towards that lower rate. Well, it has failed because the demand was more than the supply. The CBN, if they kept on doing it till this time, the dollar will keep on falling, the naira will keep on rising, but it's artificial because there's no supply coming in. It's the CBN's reserves that are being used to make the naira stronger. So it's not sustainable because once you stop selling, the market will snap back to the reality, and that's what we saw. So dollar went all the way from 1,500 to nearly 1,000, and now it's back to even 1,600, 1,500 again because the demand issues have not been taken care of. The problem with Nigeria, and I say it all the time, forget the exchange rate. Look at the oil export number. That's what you want to look at, the oil export number. Nigeria's budget for oil exports for 2024 is 1.7 million barrels per day. OPEC's budget for Nigeria is 1.5 million barrels per day. Nigeria currently is exporting about 1.2 million barrels per day. That tells you that we're not even meeting the OPEC target, talk less of our own budget target. So as long as Nigeria does not export crude oil, and crude oil is 89% of Nigeria's foreign earnings, then the naira cannot get strong. There's no deceiving yourself here. All CBN can do is to support the naira for a short amount of time, but the long-term strength of the naira comes from exports, net exports. You can export anything you want, but in Nigeria today, 89% of your exports are crude oil, which means if you want your naira to be strong, you have to export more crude oil today. That's just what it means. And if you don't export crude oil, your naira is not going to get strong. It doesn't matter what the CBN can do that for a short term, but not for a long term. So next year, we're going to pay back the principal on Eurobonds, and we're going to have to pay back the security that the CBN has borrowed, this FPIs they borrowed. Hopefully, we will pray, hopefully Nigeria will have gotten revenues in dollars to pay back what we've borrowed. If we don't, it's going to be trouble. That's to answer your question. We've got to export more crude oil. If we don't, 2025 is going to be worse than what you're going to see right now. We need to get dollar flows into the country, and there are two main ways to get dollar flows in: oil exports and remittances. That's what we need to do. Apart from that, it's going to be a problem. So I hope I've answered that question. Preacher, real quick. Preacher, go ahead, sir. You got the floor now.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Carlo.
Yeah, go ahead.
I listened keenly when Doc was speaking.
Yeah, you did.
It was more practical. Yes, it was more practical to Nigerian problem. I work in Abuja here, in one government establishment. The truth is that it is accumulation of so many people doing the wrong thing, trying to better their own interests against the national interest.
that is causing the problem. And why will somebody who is at the head, especially the president, can't do anything? Is because the way the person comes in. We are talking about oil theft. If they mention the name of prominent Nigerians in oil theft, will close your mouth. Even the president won't do anything. Because why? Those are the people who helped him in. You understand? And these guys there are so many kingmakers across the states who hold Nigeria in ransom in one sector or the other, doing the wrong thing. So how can you go against them, especially when you are standing on a loose mandate? These are the problem. It's not that they don't know what will solve the problem in oil sector. They know, but they can't because they cannot muzzle up those who are causing the leakages and who are benefiting from those criminalities. So Nigerian problem starts with somebody said that it is who gives you mandate you are going to work for. The question is, did higher percentage of Nigerians give the president mandate?
So in effect, you are saying high economics, more or less.
Yes. So even if he has goodwill, or so let me do something for my name, let me better the lives of Nigeria, how is he going to do it? Yeah, he's going to do it through people. And who are those people? People who helped him. And if he goes against them, it's a very big problem. You see, if division comes into APC and he has problem with his cabal, of course, you know, he has a very big problem in the power, still in the power, because he has a lot of opposition and people who doesn't like him, even ordinary Nigerians. The stakeholders who are quiet, there is reason why they are quiet. They are quiet because they are benefiting. Most of the top people you hear their names who are kingmakers and strong stakeholders in this Nigeria who are quiet in what is happening. There is somewhere they are benefiting. That's why they are quiet. It's not a rocket science for you to understand it. So until you just look at what is happening in Abia State, it's not that other governors who have come do not want to do the road or do not want to better the life of people, but they are being hosted by those who are around them, who gave them that power. And they make demands. You want a award road contract, you have another stakeholder that will demanding you to do the road contract to his own company. At the end of the day, by the time you collect your own percentage and the person collects his own percentage, the road will not be done. So if there is nothing holding you as a governor, you come from people's mandate. Like you know that it's people that brought you in. If you have 1 billion to do road, if you put 1 billion, you see the road of 1 billion. And that is what is happening in Nigeria across all sectors. You see they award this contract. Is somebody they awarded the contract to. And that person they awarded the contract to will eat his own share. The government will eat his own 10%. At the end of the day, the work will not be done.
True.
And that is what is happening.
Preacher,
many people in
I think that's a good point you brought about. We have to look at the politics side and how it affects the economy. There was a guy from Rivers that I asked that question. I said, is the Rivers issue affecting your personal economy? In effect, can we just blame the federal government alone? What are the state governors doing? And I'm glad you're bringing it to touch that part again. I think the consensus is that the federal government has not done enough, but I want to talk more also about the states. What are the state governors doing? What can they do better to support what happened in Nigeria? Because again, to the point, there is no quote-unquote Nigeria state. We're all belonging to 36 states and one FCT. If you leave your house, the road in front of you is owned by a local government area or a state. Let's keep that in mind, that we have to hold these guys that spend 50% of our economy also to account. Abdurrahman, your hand is up real quick. Abdurrahman, go ahead.
All right, Mr. Carl, thank you. I just want to acknowledge what Mr. Obiare said regarding the ways of tackling insecurity. I have a 16 hectares farm in Taraba, where when I went there last month for land clearing, I did a post. It's still on my Twitter. I saw a human femur. After I did my research, the guys I was working there with told me clearly that that place was actually a danger zone. That bandits occupied that place for a year and a half. But based on the community policing Mr. Obiore is talking about, they were able to pursue those people out of that community, and they left permanently. And I went there and I'm able to even get the land and even farm on it peacefully and what have you. So just to acknowledge what he said, that actually it works. It exists.
Gotcha.
And
your audio is breaking up. But your audio is breaking up. I don't know. I think we got the point of what
I personally, and it works. Restructuring is the way.
All right. Gotcha. Adama, yeah, thanks. I think we got that point. You are making it simple that local policing is the way forward. Local policing, using local people, local knowledge, and getting, of course, the resources from outside the locality. That's the way to go. ASK, you've got the floor, sir. ASK, Adama, thank you so much. ASK, please hop in real quick. ASK, you've got the floor going once. ASK.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening. My name is Ahmed Sani Kazori from Jigawa State.
How is Jigawa?
Yeah, Jigawa State, Jigawa.
Okay, how is Jigawa?
Yeah, Jigawa, we're doing well. You know, we are relatively peaceful compared to other states within our neighbors.
Yeah, why not? I always wondered why. I don't hear Boko Haram in Jigawa. I don't.
Yeah, maybe today I will break the secret for you guys to understand. I'm glad one of you was talking, my brother, and he raised a lot of points that are very valid, and probably we have to go back to that community. You know, much earlier in 1999, when Samuel Turaki was the governor of Jigawa State, he tried to do something similar to what Obia is talking about. He go to the lowest ebb of the community. He have like 10 people for a polling unit. In Hausa, we call them Ngoma, 10 people. Among them is woman leader, the political party leader, both the political parties. Maybe like now you say PDP and APC. So you bring one of them, and the traditional ruler on that various community, the community leader, that is the traditional ruler, and the religious leader. So he make the composition, and the younger people, just like youth leader, he make the composition of 10 people. Guess what is happening there? Every month he give them directly, like then it was around 50,000, 100,000 naira. In 1999, around 1999 2003. With that money directly in their hand, they are community to look into the immediate need of their community and sort it out. If anybody is coming inside that community, they have to know who is that person, where is he going, and whom he come to visit, if you are a visitor. If you travel from far away, the first thing they will do is, who are you, where are you from, and why are you here, what are you doing, what do you want? So sometimes you find out those communities, they need borehole. So if they have 100,000 naira this month, and it will cost them like 200,000 naira to do a borehole in a particular area, then they will draft 100,000 naira, and they wait until next month when the governor gives them another grant, which is directly for their own immediate community development. They will now merge it together and do the borehole. Some what they need is an immediately health facility, which is not more than 50 or 200,000 naira then. And those communities, they have identified their problems and they solve it before the government come. That was 1999. And when Sulalami come as a governor of Jigawa State in 2007, he now expanded the program. He now include the local government traditional institution, and he make it most. Everybody has us on deck to make sure that we are accounting on whoever came in and who is going out. And that structure has been helping the security agency in Jigawa to maintain the peace. So you can see the history it comes from. That is why, in our left-hand side is Kano, Boko Haram, kidnapping, banditry. Off to us is Maiduguri, Yobe, Zampara, hot cake, where everything is, insecurity is going on. And then we have the issue of the, Fulani and the hardest clash.
Mm-hmm.
And when Sulamita come on board, he said, okay, so why those Fulani people, when they are, following or, taking their animals to feed, they realize that, okay, sometimes they enter somebody's farm. And before you know it's just a clash. He said, okay, fine. Why are you moving from this place to that? He said, maybe they are looking for where they can water the animals. So he now used a wind turbine in a bush. He dig the borehole, he put the reservoir, and it just like a wind turbine. Whenever the wind is blowing, the wall is generating water and it's coming out. So you can just take your animals there and water them. And he put the brutally where there is demarcation.
Yeah.
Reserve, for them to follow their animals within that. So this is how Jigawa become relatively secured. And if at all the federal government is in need of two, I think there are so much you can come and copy from Jigawa state. But aside that, the story of saying that the government is doing the needful on security matter is just like, it's just like a mercy. Because as he rightly said, those people, they are not more than 10,000 in the bush. If they are heavily armed, what are we doing with our aircraft? The military we have. Why can't we, try to
I mean, that I appreciate you. That's good background.
I think that,
so
that should be
yeah, community-based engagement, community-based policing. Fantastic. I love that. Let me ask you a question. In terms of the economy, really, I mean, I don't know where you are in Chicago. How has it been? Has food inflation affected you guys? Do you think they're doing better today? Just give me your own view on that as well.
Oh my God,
ASK, I think I lost you, ASK. Can anybody hear ASK? ASK, I can't hear you again.
The fact is, I like how this young man, spoke on this issue. Try to relate back to the history.
ASK.
Till that money without justifying what else are you doing to defend or to secure that money. So by mere looking is the previous administration has put us into this very difficult situation. And when this administration comes, as he rightly said during the campaign, she will continue from where Buhari stopped. Now everything is taxed. I don't know. Don't we have the finance? Don't we have the money? Don't we have the models where we can use to boost our local economy? Can't we have a kind of, with all bunch of the intellectuals we have in the country, can't we have a kind of model that when we use, it will help to develop the community, economy within a short period of time? If they talk about the farming, they are lying. The government is not doing the needful regarding the farming. We're in various, I'm from Jigawa, as I rightly said. And the situation, honestly speaking, is worrisome. What you can afford last year, today, you cannot afford half of it. You can't. Everyone is economically down, financially unstable. So I think with this kind of avenue, we need to educate ourselves and probably have a very strong movement that will lead to calling the attention of government to understand that people are living in a very difficult situation. And the government has to sit up and do the needful.
Interesting.
The security architecture has been compromised from all aspects, both at local, at state, and federal level. So I think that community policing, it should be, including the community-based organization. Those are in the real community. We have 287 wards in Jigawa. If you take 10, just 1,000 youth, or just 100,000, just 10 young people from various community, you'll be giving them a token, provide them with what they need as a facility. they can safeguard and they can communicate within themselves if there is any breakout of insecurity. And probably that will help to overcome the current situation we are. But I don't know what else Mr. President will present as a gift for 1 year in office for Nigerians, maybe in a couple of days to come. You know, I don't see anything good from him, honestly speaking.
All right, ASK, thank you for that. Appreciate you letting us have the perspective from Jigawa, from the past, how you guys have run into the past to avoid those insistent attacks, and what your take is on the economy today. Very, very insightful. Thank you for that. Let me get it fine. Go ahead. ASK, you want to say something?
Thank you. No, it's okay. That's my son.
I appreciate that, sir. All right, no worries. Ifeanyi Okoye, you've got the floor, sir. Mr. Ifeanyi Okoye, whilst you're getting ready, let me go through the DM. Someone sent me a DM that I wanted to just take a look at. It says, I'm just going to paraphrase. I had a poultry farm operating expenses more than tripled last year. A bag of poultry feed went from 5,000 to 18,000. I have suggested to my mom that we scale down the poultry to subsistence level and conserve the capital. We want to sequester the funds in Treasury bill and US denominated assets instead. So what this lady is saying is that they have a poultry and the cost of running the poultry have gone up from 5,000 per bag of feed to 18,000 per bag of feed. So their response is to close down or to take the poultry to just basic level and use that money and invest in Treasury bills and dollar denominated assets. So you see, this is what's going on in Nigeria. Lots of businesses are closing down and are investing in risk assets because those assets are paying you guaranteed. The Treasury bill in Nigeria is paying you guaranteed nearly 20%. So why would you take the risk, quote unquote, of being an investor in a poultry in Nigeria, creating jobs, employing people, creating value chain additions, if you can simply make monies from just risk-free investing in Treasury bills? So this is the situation in Nigeria. This is why we have jobs that are disappearing because businesses are closing down, cannot operate with the current cost structure, and find it much, much easier to simply buy Treasury bills. So it's a crowding out effect of the federal government on the economy of Nigeria, and it's not going to have good outcomes per se. Let me get this new guy, Mr. Evaristos.
Mr. Carlo, I thought you were calling me
didn't
before.
Answer, sir. I called you, didn't answer.
I was within my phone, so I just had to come back. I heard you.
You got the floor, sir.
Yeah, greetings everybody. I've just been listening to submissions of various people. I think I would like to look at the topic in terms of the economic viability last year compared to a year ago, compared to today. But I'll be taking it from the angle of the political aspects, looking at the politics, because most people tend to forget that political power determines how economic strive or in terms of economic prosperity. Because people will say, most people in the private sector will say, oh, you have a way to find your way around the system. You mustn't complain. Just do your own thing. That it has always been there. But the case of Nigeria is looking bad every day. And every economic analysis, when it gets to Nigeria, it defies logic and reasoning. You ask why. Is it that what worked in climb A cannot be implemented here? But most of the challenges are maybe the political actors, even getting to the local government level and state level. These guys are not willing to think out of the box, to create soft landing, to boost businesses. They are just willing, okay, get the money, share, and let's continue the way we live our life at the expense of the private sector. A year ago, I won't say it was really better. We are still in such. The only thing is getting more worse, and it's choking. because the citizens, especially individuals, are the receiving end. People's disposable income is shrinking. Cost of services, commodity, and goods are increasing, while people's income are not increasing. And of recently, the rubbish arguments within the federal government and NLC telling us that they cannot increase minimum wage, not even a living wage, more than 57,000 naira is alarming. How much is things, commodities? Then okay, if we are to benchmark that salary, if we are to benchmark it, looking back 2012, bringing back today, benchmarking it with dollar, you find out that 57,000 naira is not up to even $40. Talk less, yeah. Compared to when people were working in the bank, then they were earning 250,000 naira, 300. That's at 2012. That was at that minimum. That was about, let me say, over $1,000 or close to $2,000. But somebody still earning 250 or 350,000 naira. I don't think that's up to $500 in the real sense. So, like you said, you said something, Mr. Kalu, that we are not meeting our OPEC production. Well, definitely, political power, the politics they play are not for interest of growth of nation. It's interest of self. And these things keep happening. We'll get to a breaking point that revolution will now seem the alternative, which people don't want to. People are shying away from the truth. Or the nation peacefully disintegrates and every region focus on what it has. Because our full potential has not been achieved with this kind of governance of it's my own, my right, my turn, not even considering putting things in place. Of recent, look at the CBN policy. Just within 1 year, the MPR has moved from 18 to 22, from 22 to 24, from 24 to 26. The effect of it, nobody is talking about it. Then one old man is talking about to be every day. Nobody is talking of those policy. The effect is that there will be more joblessness because people can't access loan, people can't get funding for businesses, and even if you get that funding, where will you pay back? For every 1 million naira, you have about 42% interest. When the commercial banks add their own, 42, 45, that means you are paying over 450,000 naira to 420,000 naira for every 1 million for interest rate. Then you the inflation and overhead cost of maybe such businesses, then where are you? Except you're a drug pusher before you can take such loan. It's not going to work. So the effect is that people will rarely save money with this kind of economy. The only investment is like mutual funds or high yielding investments which are dollarized. People could put their funds. But with what is happening, it's not going to work. I'm not being pessimistic, but people will say, oh, why are you sounding this way? Oh, we should be confident. We don't need all these motivational speakers again. We need practical solution in this difficult situation. We don't need all these pastors who are motivational speakers. We need people who with practical solutions to give us solutions to come out of this mess. Nigeria is already in a mess. But some people will tell you, oh, the government, give them time. They are working. Any government that does not prioritize small-scale investments, businesses, then that country is doomed. I got a friend of mine a few days ago. Hello?
No, if I what if you could round up? Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to bring out this analogy. Beyond government policies, another major issues we have here, especially SMEs are facing, are ease of doing businesses in terms of multiple taxation, levies, charges, no tax holiday. So, like somebody moved recently, somebody was discussing with me and said a Nigerian created an online university for people to learn a lot of digital skills, and he took such businesses to Uganda. After 1 year, by registering there, starting a business there, he had few staff. The government approached him in Uganda, said, "What are you doing?" And he explained the business model, and they got excited. And the government partnered with him and gave him a support, not a loan, a partnership of half a million US dollar, half a have $1 million to support the business. But here in Nigeria, they are not interested. Oh, you've registered a business, you have an office. Oh, this is your tax you pay for, you pay us. Oh, you pay local government levy, state levy, federal government levy, permits for maybe your sticker, your signage permit. So at the end of the day, how do you expect productivity for such businesses? That's why people who are in the production line, they are losing badly. The FMCG sector, the losses is incurred because lack of access to raw material as a result of the insecurity in some of these areas they're supposed to get these things, and high cost of instability in the FX. If they want to get those things outside the country, the FX is not available.
Gotcha.
And somebody will tell you.
Gotcha. If I point, yeah, issues are. We've got a point you're passing. Yeah.
So I rest my case. Maybe let other people speak. I can come back later. You the mic.
Thank you so much, Ifeanyi. Appreciate that. Mr. Evaristus Odinkaise, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
Okay.
Good afternoon. So I listened when Nemeka was speaking. And I didn't know if I should cry or if I should weep or if I should just scream. But one thing came to my mind. I know you were citing the performance of Petrobras, which is the Brazilian version of NMPC. Well, Petrobras is almost as old as NMPC. I thought that there was even a better challenge to Nigeria's NMPC, and that is PetroChina. PetroChina was created about the same time that Obasanjo was being sworn in as the civilian elected or the democratically elected president in Nigeria in 1999. Today, as we are having this conversation, PetroChina is about the third largest company in the world by market capitalization. They're doing about 1.6 trillion or 1.3 trillion, but about at least above 1.3 trillion. That is what they have in market capitalization. And imagine being created in 1999 to all of a sudden, position China as top 10 oil producing country, and Nigeria is not in top 10. Think about it. But there's something that you can draw, at least when you look at some of these countries that have emancipated themselves in the last 35, 40 years. I'm not going to take a poll on this in this room right now, but I know that the youngest person here will be in their mid-30s. That means the miracle of China, South Korea, Singapore happened in our lifetime. So if you look at these three countries that I just mentioned, they all have some similarities, apart from just being in Southeast Asia. They all have what is considered high human development index. Even though China is the one with the lowest compared to the other two, it's still considered high to have a 0.79 human development index. South Korea has 0.93, which is very high. Singapore has 0.95, which is the highest in Southeast Asia. All right, if you do a little comparative analysis of their economic performance, growth, and their global share of in participation in global market, you'll find out that it's increasing. And one example I will give you is that in 2002, Singapore's human development index was like 0.83. If you put like 20 years to it, they rose from 0.83 to 0.95. All right, let's move away from Southeast Asia a little bit and come to Africa and go to a very tiny country. Some of you may have not heard, but I'm sure that majority of you have heard of Botswana. Botswana has the highest human development index in Africa, which is comparable to that of China. All right, so Botswana is doing very well. in every aspect of their Botswana society. The reason is because they have readily deployable human capital that are performing in every aspect of their life. When Nemeka was speaking frustratingly about the performance of practitioners in Nigerian oil sector, the only thing that came to my mind is the same thing, is the quality of humans Nigeria had or still have in that sector. And this is, I'm going to wrap up in the next 1.5 minutes. And this is why. If you compare Trump, who is a radically corrupt American president, who was willing to list this country on eBay and sell it to the highest bidder, you will still find out that there were majority of Americans at different places, at different levels, who were willing to say no to Trump so they can do the right thing. There was a gentleman that spoke right after Nemeka that drew some kind of parallel between what's happening in Abia State and what should be happening at the national level. And he identified himself as someone who was working or who's working in Nigerian federal sector. It is them. They are the people who are supposed to be purveyors and custodians of this corruption that's happening in Nigeria. If they said no, it's not going to happen. The president can do A, B, C, D. If everybody at every level would say, no, the president, you can't do it, and we're going to blow the whistle. And the lawyers or the justices at their own side will say, oh my God, this is abhorrent. We're not going to tolerate this. And they're going to put their own strongest feet on the ground. And everybody would say no. Do you know that problems in Nigeria would have been solved? But the people who are practitioners in these spaces are not quality people. So you cannot expect them to, do miracles. The gentleman from Jigawa that spoke earlier was talking about if you restructure Nigeria and create regional police or community police, Nigeria's problem will be solved. It's not true. If you restructure Nigeria today, all things being equal, all the criminals will be restructured to their own side and they will double down. Now, the weight of federal accountability and other intra-regional subpoenas and stuff will be lifted off them and they will go unhinged. So it's not true that if you restructure Nigeria today, all of a sudden our problems will disappear, our insecurities will disappear. The reason why we have insecurity in Nigeria is because we do not have opportunity. If you liberalize opportunities in Nigeria and people wake up every day having a hope or sense of where the next bread is going to come from, they are going to go to sleep at night knowing that when they wake up, they're going straight to work where they're going to get their next bread. But if you do not have that opportunity, then your last resort will be to steal and kill and do whatever. And that is where Nigeria is right now. Unemployment is increasing in Nigeria. All your senators and stuff, look at Bello El Rufai, right? Someone like that is now, allowed to be responsible for making laws in Nigeria. There are two other gentlemen like him about their age who came from the north and are doing this whole, nonsense that they are doing. That is how you recruit and groom the next generation of crooks, not next generation of leaders, because they did not have any experience anywhere. They were not groomed by quality leaders. El Rufai is not a quality leader, so his son is not going to do anything better. Abacha's son was who's governor.
Hold on. You can't say that now. You can't say because I was not, then the son can't.
Okay. But which pipeline did he come from, though?
It doesn't matter. Ojukwu was a great man. Where's his son?
No. But Ojukwu's son was never in political. We didn't know where he is. So that's not. You can't measure. You're comparing two different things.
What are Bill Gates' daughters? Where are they?
No. You cannot. That's not. These are not. Bill Gates' daughters are attending Harvard and all those under different names that people don't know because they want to be safe. You can't say that.
I'm thinking that we can't put the sins of the father on the sons. I mean,
no. But so I do understand the devil's advocate, Mr. Aja, right? I get that point. But what I'm telling you is this: that you cannot draw from the pipeline that gave birth to crooks and expect these people who were born of crooks all of a sudden to become angels. That's not how these things work. You guys run Nigeria with vibes and by God's grace. God's grace is that these things are predictable. But yeah, I'm wrapping up here. These things are predictable, but you guys can.
Where did Dora Akunyili come from?
Dora Akunyili is similar to 1 or 2 or 3 or 5, maybe 50 Nigerians who are exemplary. Those are outliers. Those are not. If you close your eyes and draw people who are going to be bureaucrats or ministers or in the quality in the level of Dora Akunyili, you're not going to get up to 0.1% of quality people. Like you're going to get over 99.99%, Mr. Aja. That is the mistake Nigerians are making. You do not have quality people in abundance. If you look at the pool of candidates you're going to draw for ministry posts, you're not going to find people who are like Okonji Iweala or what's this our brother that's running African Bank or whatever, right? Right. So you guys keep making the mistake that you have abundance of people, abundant quality people. You do not. That is the mistake. So when you draw those people that will go around your banks like Elumelus and Dangotes, they're going to return 0 for you because that's rent seekers, right? So at the end of the day,
let me take you on the issue of the restructuring. I believe that if restructure Nigeria changes, I'll give you specific restructuring that you need to have. Number one, okay. The Federal Account Election Committee, if you scrap that, if restructure Nigeria, there'll be a direct impact in terms of incentivizing production at the state and local government. Number two, Land Use Act. If you scrap that, you put the wealth back in the state, you eliminate dead capital, where you have land but you have no securitized paper to show title, which means that land ownership is dead capital. It's capital, but you can't go to the bank to borrow from it. Just 2 things: FARC and Land Use Act. Restructuring. I'm not going to talk.
Okay, so let me touch very briefly on this. And for those who don't know me, I see some of my friends from Clubhouse here who know my background. I was a research student of public policy. I looked into some of these things. I even went to China to do a year research in doing some kind of comparative policy analysis to see how people are organizing themselves and making their societies better, whether capitalism is better than communism or socialism or monarchy or whatever. It turns out the political system plays no role whatsoever. It's the quality of people and how they choose to organize themselves in order to deliver the highest dividends of whatever governance or political system they choose. So that fact you're talking about, again, I'm also an accountant. That fact you're talking about, right now, if the governor of Abia State that one of our brothers, cited earlier, is able to allocate a decent, I'm not saying that he's allocating everything 100% efficiently and all that, but he's at least doing much better than his predecessors. And everyone in Nigeria is attributing that to some kind of prudent allocation of resources. Where is he getting this money that he's allocating? Is FARC. So therefore, it's not actually about where you're getting the money from. Because at the end of the day, if you have Abia State controlling all the oil in Abia land, they are still going to extract, refine, sell, and distribute the oil and retrieve money that they can now use to allocate in different places to build their state. So it doesn't really matter whether you are the person selling the oil or the oil is being sold and the returns are given to you. It doesn't matter. What matters here is that there is an intentional and prudent allocation of this thing towards distributing equitable governance to people. That's what matters. So for that one, while I do agree that it is
it does matter because FARC says that if Alex Oti built a road in Abia and that road generates VAT, FARC is saying that Alex Oti will take that VAT and share to 36 states. So I'm saying if you remove that FARC, that principle of FARC, it means that more Alex Otis can appear in more states because they then know that if they fix a bad road in their states, they are able to retain 100% VAT.
All right. So the reason why I disagree with that, again, as an accountant, I can tell you how to account for public, accounts and stuff, including taxes. When we took federal government to court a couple of years ago, they stayed the VAT as it is. What it means is that the states actually are endowed with collection of VATs and retrieving whatever percentage to federal government as constituted with the Nigerian VAT statutes or whatever, right? That's also obtainable here in the United States. When I go across the street here and fill my tank and pay taxes on that petroleum, there's an amount of a percentage of that gets surrendered to Massachusetts, the state of Massachusetts, as well as the federal government, so they can continue to fund EPA in this United States. So at the end of the day, you guys are more like everybody's focused on, I have to be in control. When you have already demonstrated that the little control you have, you can't even execute. So I disagree that fact.
It's not
So if I can just get 50 seconds to just wrap up, I will now yield, please. I beg your indulgence. So I disagree that if this park is scrapped and everyone is now in charge of their whatever, that Nigeria is going to become, everybody will just be fine and will do kumbaya. It's not true. It's not going to happen. But it's a good thing, though, to restructure Nigeria. I just want to be on record to say that I'm not against restructuring. I am pro good governance, and I'm saying that all things being equal the way we are today, if you get quality people at all levels in Nigerian, economy or government or nation, Nigeria is going to, like, the productivity of Nigeria or the quality of people or the quality of dividend of democracy that they're receiving is going to jump by 25%. And if that's steadied, election over election, which is every 4 years in Nigeria, 3 election cycles, Nigeria is going to be performing on the level of Botswana. And if you use a multiplier effect, that is going to blow Nigeria's productivity and GDP beyond 1.3 trillion US dollars. So the one of Land Use Act, I also believe that as things are right now, if you go to Anambra State to buy a piece of land, depending on the zip code or the closeness to Oka or Onisha, that people know what the price is. And the price is whatever you and the seller decide, whatever you guys have a meeting of the mind, that is the fair value of that land. And I do understand that in as much as someone like me, who studied accounting overseas and have worked in U.S. federal government and currently on Wall Street and stuff, that I would be pro global market standard of evaluations and stuff. But I would disagree because every market is local. If you don't have that local market where buyers and sellers have determined their own fair price, there's no way that you're going to, find someone from overseas that will come immediately and slap you with a ridiculously amount of money for that piece of, commodity. That's not how it works. This Land Use Act, I'm from Imo State, or wherever our lands are, or pieces of land, even the ones my dad bought. My dad died in 2003. We still know where they are. We still have documents for them. If we turn around tomorrow to 101 naira, that is the fair price that we are happy with. We keep it pushing. It is not because that, there's no Land Use Act right now that I can't just go and sell my land or whatever. But I do understand that since I'm from Imo State, around that Oru West local government and Ohaji Ebama area, that means my piece of land there has the potential of having petroleum. So, given the current Land Use Act, I cannot set up a refinery there or some kind of fracking. I get that part. But guess what? I do not have the capacity to start extracting oil there. So it doesn't really make any sense. Even if you do Land Use Act that will guarantee me to do whatever I want to do with my land. So we are fighting the wrong battles in Nigeria. Let everybody who is a practitioner in their space look around, hold themselves accountable, be an example. I know someone is listening and say, this guy wait there abroad, this one waiting now. Now accountability, you go eat, I'll be waiting until hunger hammer you. Someone will be saying that right now. But that is how we defer our chances to make a difference in Nigeria. All the people that are all the you see, wrapping up here. All the people that are clamoring for good governance right now, a lot of them used to be in this petrochemical industry. What did they do? They were part of that inefficiency, right? Ben Bruce Murray is now common sense man. He was senator for almost 7.5 years.
Let's round up.
You know, so we get the opportunity to do the right thing. We don't do it. We're always ascribing, blames to the next person or some kind of inanimate object, because when we can't do anything until you restructure Nigeria. Once you do it, Nigeria will become Dubai. We can't do anything in Nigeria until land use act. Once you do it, Nigeria will become. It's not true. We don't have quality people. Let's focus on human development. If you deploy them in community policing, they will do the right thing. If you deploy them in federal.
All right, let's just we have to move on. So I get the point, but we have to allow others to speak. So the point I'm making about the Land Use Act and the VAT, let me just be very, very clear how Nigerian law operates. VAT is collected by the federal government, not the state government. In America, sales tax is collected by the states, not the federal. That's the key differentiation. In Nigeria, if Lagos State, if Abia State build a road and that road generates income, the law states that Lagos State and Abia State have shared that income across the 36 states of the Federation. What that means then is that there is no incentive for the states that do not generate income to generate their own income, because they can simply sit down and get money other states that have generated income. That's the point I'm making about FAC, that if you allow the restructuring of FAC to put more credence on derivation, then you have restructured FAC, which then means that there's an opportunity for states to become more incentivized to generate wealth because you've taken derivation to a higher level. And again, we're not reinventing the wheel. Derivation before 1970 was 67% of how you shared FAC. FAC today is an abnormally set by the military from 1970. They took derivation from 67% to zero. So it's a recent phenomenon. That's on FAC. On the Land Use Act, the point about Land Use Act is that when the federal government and the state governments take away your land, they say you must sign a paper called a certificate of occupancy for that to become real, legal, securitized ownership of land. That means I cannot go to the bank and get a bank loan using my land as collateral until the governor signs. So if I want to sell land, it doesn't matter the price I sell. I can't sell that land until the governor signs. So a bank cannot easily create legal mortgages in Nigeria because the CFOs have got to be equitable mortgages, i.e., transferred by law. So Land Use Act puts a weight on those transfers of title. It makes legal mortgages difficult to accomplish, and it turns all that land into dead capital, where you have 900 billion, 3 trillion of landed assets, but you can't borrow on them because you have no paperwork to borrow on them. They are dead. If the government doesn't sign your CFO, you can't walk into the bank and use that land as collateral. So Chile started this issue of eliminating it. They went to Chile, they gave the market women, the landowners, a paper. And once they gave on the paper to the land, those guys instantly had equity because they owned the land. The equity just gave them the means to go to the bank, and they instantly created wealth. The land is already there, but there's no paperwork to show you own the land. That's the point I'm making about Land Use Act on those 2 points. So let's go to Mr. Haruna. Haruna, how are you doing? Mr. Haruna, how are you doing? Let you hop back in real quick. Let me get Don Pido. Don Pido, how is it going, sir? Mr. Don Pido.
Thank you, my brother. Everything is going well. And let me just add a little sense, my 2 cents to the conversation. And I really applaud the last speaker and also yourself on some of these topical issues that you have brought to bear.
what happened in this instance is Nigeria as a country, we are configured in a totally different way and pattern. I cannot equate a standard of living of a Brit or an American or a Canadian to that of a Nigerian, because our economic models, political models, social-cultural models, capacities are totally different. In Nigeria, people are mainly agricultural. We are pretty much agrarian at a very, very local level, not like the way it is here in the United States. We have less of government input in most of our economic systems back home. Whether it's the common trader in Area or in Ababa, in Enugu, or at the local markets we have back home. So there is a system that is working for us. But the bigger picture here is, I'm just going by the question that you posed, whether people are better off economically today than a year ago. The answer is no. The reason is we haven't made any progress. There's no economic modification of what was in existence. Even for a year ago is even pushing it. 4 years ago, 8 years ago. And by so saying is look at every single indices of economic strength. The citizens' quality of life has depreciated to an abysmal low over the last year. The capacity of Nigerians to engage in economic activity, simple buying and selling. And this can be attributed to the terrible financial policies of the current administration. Look at what the dollar was when Jonathan was president. We, as a country, we are more of a consuming nation than a manufacturing nation. We don't do stuff. We don't make things. Our export capacity is pretty much very, very low compared to our counterparts around the world. And when that trickles down, it trickles down so badly that even my mother, who is in a worry, they find it so difficult to conduct economic activity. By economic activity, I mean buying and selling at a very local level. Things are pretty much tough to reach today, as it were, compared to 4 years ago, 8 years ago. So we are not making any gains. You look at the country's economic model and the people who are making these policies. The CBN tends to just be throwing anything to the wall, hoping that one will stick. There is no formidable architecture, planning. For some reason, I don't understand why a nation like ours that has most of the best brains when it comes to economy, when it comes to, I'm not going to the political forces that is determining our economic structures now. I'm just talking about just the simplest economic model that's been in place over the last year. It is absolutely unsustainable. Now, everything in the country, you see, now when you go to the markets, Wuse market, for example, to buy fish. Fish is so expensive, and you ask them why, they say, didn't you see the dollar exchange? And then you ask yourself, what has the dollar got to do with a woman selling fish?
So, Don, what do you think do you have any, what do you think can change? If you had to pass one policy or suggestion, what do you think you would try to put out there?
What would change and what hasn't been done over these years is we lack the leadership that will employ an economic model that is sustainable. That economic model will start from the government. Will need to ask itself, how can we enhance the capacity of the citizenry to be able to be productive? Number one, look at our energy sector. There is no way the country will make progress if we don't have our energy system in place. We must be a manufacturing nation before we start getting things right. If you give an average Nigerian child constant electricity, then they can start making stuff. If you see the strength countries around the world drawn from making stuff is unmatchable. We cannot build in a vacuum. It's absolutely impossible. If there is one thing the government will do or should do, I remember when President Jonathan came to Washington, D.C., we had a section, the summit on global nuclear security. One of my suggestions then to the presidency, and he brought it up in that summit, was if every other thing fails, why can't we seek alternative sources of energy, even if it's nuclear? We don't have to go towards enrichment. Nobody is talking about that. But that was the fear of our counterparts in the West. I think he later had a meeting with President Obama and the rest of them. We need to ensure that we have a working system where our energy sector is at par with our contemporaries. We cannot make stuff. Now, I want to go. I'm doing one of the biggest investment in the Southeast, and our major concern has been how do we draw electricity to the factories? How do we start making stuff? Because when we start making stuff, we can be able to increase first the Nigerian reserve, which is lacking. We can be able to create opportunity zones. We can be able to open up, unchain the ingenuity of the Nigerian child. The innovation that we have is exploding, and that is why these young people, when those opportunities are not there for them to thrive, then it becomes a strife to the society. So my suggestion, number one, is getting our energy sector in check and putting things in place that will ensure energy sustainability. If we don't have that, I don't care who the president is, I don't care who the governor is, I don't care who the local government chairman is. If we lack the capacity to be a manufacturing nation, we will continue to scrape crops all the time. But once we get that in place, naturally, you see how things will blossom. Number two, we don't have the political spirit to do what is right. Look at what is going on in Lagos. For example, just in the last 2-3 weeks, I'm trying to use instances, something that everyone is familiar with. A government is designing a highway, a coastal highway, and the first thing that came to their mind is to start demolition without any assessment. How do you even attract foreign direct investment when they know that you have people who are not thinking straight? When the determination of your success as a business leader in the country is incumbent on you having access to those in power, when the reverse should be the case. So if you want to come to the country to do investment now, if you don't know the presidency, you can't. If you are not in good terms with the governor or the person who knows the governor, you can start today and tomorrow someone comes and demolish your $1 billion investment. So we make the environment absolutely hostile to investment of both the citizenry and foreigners.
I got you. Don, I need to get you a round up so I can get others to speak if you don't mind. I do apologize.
Yeah, go ahead. So we don't have the political will, we don't have the economic strength and the tact to be able to think through some of these things that can help move the country to the next level. So the citizens' economic life, they will never be, because there's absolutely nothing that will change the status quo if the status quo is not changing itself. Then socioculturally, I don't even want to go there. It's
Don, we have to round up.
So let me reserve the rest of my time.
I mean, great points there. We just have to round up. I got Mohammed Okoye. Mohammed, how you doing?
Fine, thank you, Mr. Carlo. Thanks for having me again. Your question, I'm going to speak as just matter of factly. Am I worse off today than a year ago? Definitely, I'm worse off. From the basic and from the most basic things, from light happen to be in band A to going to work, whether I'm driving or I'm using public transport, it's more costly than last year. Transport for me has doubled. Light has more than tripled. That is electricity. So yeah, food. We all know what has happened to food. So yeah, it's not pretty. But why I think why this is happening today with regards the thing that affects the basic man the most, which is food and power and energy, which is basically fuel and light, is because
Mohammed, I think I'm losing you. I don't know if you're still speaking. I think I lost him. Yep, I lost him. Kenike.
Hello?
Go ahead. I don't know if I lost you. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah,
if you can hear me, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just go on. Okay. So yeah, our exchange rate is lower. Security issues obviously affecting almost every industry, especially agriculture. But that aside, why is Naira this low? I think it's necessary that Naira is this low because we've basically been subsidizing Naira for a long time. Now let's look at a time period that I came across. We happen to be amongst what they call in the World Bank paper I read, the 58 billion, the bottom billion, about 58 countries, of which 38 are sub-Saharan African countries, and 34 out of that 58 also happen to be resource-rich countries, especially in renewables, which make up at least 20% of their government revenues. Within the year 2004, they analyzed 3 decades, and they found that prior to
Mohammed, your audio is very, very, should we say, it needs to be worked on, Mohammed. I'm going to let you go. Try to fix that audio and come back. Fix the audio, come back, request. I'll put you up as next speaker if you don't mind, Mohammed. Yeah, I think your audio is going back and forth. I do apologize. Good, Mr. Goodwill. How you doing, sir? Good to Wanko.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Carlo. I'm a financial guru. So the thing is, it's just the answer is just simple. You know, we just need them to tell us the truth. We just need them to stop lying. You know, because you have decisions, investment decisions that are being made by organizations, by individuals, by large corporate bodies, based on what comes out from our leaders, what they say every day. And sometimes we understand that there are certain things that you can't really predict, that you can't really be sure that you have no control of. But when you repeatedly tell so much lies, and these are lies that you didn't have to even say it. All you have to say is tell us what it is. Like when they had this situation with Omahi, the journalist was asking for if they have done the feasibility studies. And he stood there and he was bold-faced lying to the public. That is a huge responsibility when you when you tell lies of such magnitude. It moves investments positively or negatively. And when you do it so frequently, so recklessly, so much that people now don't even believe what you say, even if you're telling the truth. I go to post every time when they say they have an investment coming in. I always look at posts and timelines, and 99.9% of the responses, people don't believe them. People call them lamba, lies. These lies. So even if they're telling the truth, nobody believes them anymore. And those are the things that influence investment choices, because when you know that you're putting in $100 million, you want to understand the cash flow, the future cash flows that will be derived from such an investment. And knowing that Is the government going to put in place this policy? Is what they are telling you that they're creating comfortable investment climate? Is that going to be lies? And look at what they did, what they did to Landmark. So the thing is just one thing, and the one thing they had to change, and that is to stop telling so much lies. If they do that, at least 50% of their problem will be solved. Because people will now say, okay, you know what? At least they've given us an idea of how the future outlook or the forecast is going to look like. I mean, those of you that do trading, you depend on fundamentals and market fundamentals. You look at news reports from across the world. You look at earnings from companies. When the CEOs come out and they tell you the truth and they tell you what kind of earnings they made, kind of revenue, and what they're looking to do in their projection, in their forecast. And if they miss the forecast, they come back and tell you, okay, hey, look, the next quarter we intend to implement this, we intend to scale this, we intend to set up more, hire more salespeople, or improve another product line to be able to make up for our projections that we've had a shortfall. There's a proper explanation, because people don't. When you tell people you're going to deliver 20% on their investment, you better deliver 20% of that investment. If you don't, you better have a good reason why you didn't get up to that 20%, because you're going to be held responsible. So these guys, you have fund managers who have fiduciary responsibility to their limited partners, to the pension funds, to the institutional investors, and they have to be sure that when they make those investment decisions, when they decide to put in that $200 million, that $1 billion into a particular market, they have to be sure that the market conditions is going to be suitable, because if anything happens to those pension funds from the US, from Texas, that they plug back in the Nigerian market, somebody will have to be held accountable and probably go to prison, because they will tell you, look at the science, look at the information that was available in public domain, and you didn't see that, and yet you went and invested $1 billion, $2 billion, $10 billion in a market where the red lights were, the red flags were all over the place.
Let me ask you a question directly. This coastal road, what's your take?
The coastal road, you have to, when you conduct a project of such magnitude, you have to have a robust conversation. You have to have conversation with stakeholders. You have to have conversation with the investment community. You have to have conversations with those that, look, do you know what? When they were about to build the Keystone Pipeline here in the US, the Keystone Pipeline took several electoral circles. They were discussing the Keystone Pipeline before Obama came into presidency, and they were still discussing the Keystone Pipeline throughout Obama's 8 years of presidency, even till the Trump presidency. They were still discussing the Keystone Pipeline, because they have to ensure the right-of-way conditions. They have to ensure that there are proper EIA studies, who will be impacted, livestock, humans, all that information. But I was surprised. They just woke up and they said they're going to build a highway. And I remember Keystone Pipeline, that was a similar magnitude. And look at the kind of studies that went into it. And these guys now are now. So how would you want people to react? So I got so much that I know there's a whole lot of people here, but we can come back later. Thank you.
The Lagos, the coastal highway is a fantastic infrastructure project. That's one of the projects you do in a country that just lifts GDP up, creates wealth. It's more than a road. If you build that road, you are guaranteeing prosperity for years to come. But I think the way they've gone about it, they've maybe engineered that road is going to be mired in controversy. If the president knows what he's doing, he should make sure that road is built within 8 years, because once he leaves, I doubt that thing is going to be built. Number two, it looks, in my view, like there's no plan of on that road. They funded the Lagos axis, but the real funding takes place outside Lagos. When you get to the creeks, you have to build the bridges. You have to do lots of more engineering, more detailed engineering work to go from, say, Ondo all the way to Calabar, crossing swamps. They're going to build a bridge on swamps. That's a lot of money. There's no indication where they're going to get the money from. There's no indication how long or if the EIA plans to map out that route from say, Ondo State, outside Lagos, all the way to Calabar. They haven't done their homework well. There's this rush to build Lagos axis, and I think later on, people are going to start to see it for what it is. My fear is that the road becomes this symbol of bad government policy and nobody wants to complete it, even though the road is needed and it's a very, very important piece of infrastructure. I believe the road gets tagged as bad infrastructure and nobody wants to do it. Just like a rail to Maradi. Nothing wrong with a rail to Maradi. But when you rush rail to Maradi, you don't even have a rail from Lagos to Kano that can take your goods from Kano, Kaduna, Katsina to be exported, but you are rushing Katsina to Maradi. The same thing. The rail is good, but because you put so much emphasis on the road that is not going to add the same economic output as a Lagos to Kaduna road or Lagos to Kano railway would add, it becomes suspicious. People tend to tag it as a bad infrastructure policy. So once you get out of office, nobody goes back to it, and eventually it gets forgotten or it gets put on the side. I hope this doesn't happen to this Calabar road, that people do not look at it as a quote-unquote Tinubu road, and that they don't do it. It's a very, very good project. They've gone about it the very, very wrong way. They've done it the wrong way, and I hope that they can, give this project to someone that knows what he's doing. If Julius Berger would have built this road without destroying any property, they would have done it. If you don't know how to do it, don't destroy property because you want to build a road. Because the road is good does not give you the license to destroy everything. Okay, why haven't they destroyed the village in Okuanja? They passed the village. Why did they destroy it? If the road is good for and federal might supersede all issues, why didn't they destroy that village? Because politics have come to play. So the same thing should be applied. If these guys that are giving the contractors do not know how to build a road without touching the infrastructure, give it to somebody else. We need that road to work. There is no express road from the east of Nigeria to the west of Nigeria. There's no railroad from the east of Nigeria to the west of Nigeria. We need one. And I fear that these guys are going about it the wrong way, that later government will be like, I don't want to touch this road because it's just too controversial. That's just my take on that road. I've got foundational Lagosian. What's your mindset? Go ahead. Foundational Lagosian. You've got the floor.
I thought you called me sometime.
You didn't speak. Keneke, you are here. You didn't speak.
No. This guy came up now, the boy, Mohammed.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to be short. So are you better off economically today or yeah? Of course, nobody's better off, but nothing's going to change. You have to go back to the fundamentals.
Am I the only one I can't hear? Can
I can hear him.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So Nigeria is not going to change. Fundamentals. You can't have people like Tinubu, Atiku Bagudu as your leaders and you want things to change. It's not possible. It's not. You cannot give birth to a lion and expect it to be a dog. Tinubu is a criminal. So I'm sorry. There's no two ways about it. It doesn't work that way. Tinubu doesn't have the charisma, the discipline, the accountability to do anything for Nigeria's progress. He just wanted to be president to fulfill our righteousness. So we can go back to the basics. Somebody mentioned the coastal highway. Look at the mess that the coastal highway has cost. Of all the projects in Nigeria, is the coastal highway that important? You even just admitted to it. We're not going to finish it in 8 years. I watched a snippet today of Peter. We'll be talking about the roads and the value chain and other roads, east, west, Abuja, Lokoja, Auchi, Enugu, Oturupa. There are many roads that are in shambles that contribute to the very fabric of economic activities in Nigeria. They are not drivable. How long will the federal coastal highway take to build? Where will they get funding from? Let's even talking about high-tech engineering. There was no EIA done. There was no BPE, remedials. You know what it is before you put out the federal government contract? There must be a bidding. Umari admitted that job wasn't bidded.
The coastal road, let me just put context to the coastal. What they did was that they did not bid because the contractor, High Tech, said he
doesn't matter. Come on, man. Come on. Let's not do that.
What he said was going to fund the road with his money. They said there will be no bidding, no competitive bid. Then once he got the contract, the same federal government then gave him money to build it. So you can see what they.
Yeah. So that's my point. Why would I believe anything Tinubu says? Why? You know his history. He's too corrupt. Tinubu, he appointed Atiku Bagudu as the Minister of Economic Planning. Atiku Bagudu, Abacha's handsman. Google his name. And do you expect people like that to actually have any form? I mean, the guy is what does he do? He was senator in PDP, became governor of 30 states. Let's be fair. Appointed Haliru, Badru, Minister of Defense. Appointed the Minister of the Governor of Zamfara, Matawale, as Minister. What are you expecting? They did. I mean, I hope you watched the ministerial review. I used to be an aide to a minister. I used to be an aide to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So tell me whom impressed you there? Who impressed you? You have the Minister of Youth who doesn't know what she's doing. She's a young person. You have a woman who's called Laura Ade Adams. She's the Minister of Tourism, not Hannatu Musawa. These are people that don't know what they are doing. Again, if you're thinking that Nigeria will change, Nigeria will not change. We'll all be complaining, we'll all be shouting. Tinubu has nothing to offer. I don't talk about VAT, all those things are immaterial. When the fundamentals are wrong, everything is wrong. One of the reasons why I supported Peter, I'm a PDP member, right? I was conflicted between supporting Atiku and supporting Peter. But in all fairness, I said, let me support Peter. Now, one of the reasons why I support Peter is from my home state. He was the governor of my home state. Part of the reasons why they didn't like me in my home state because he was too stingy. Fair and well. But there are certain things that I see what Peter did. And I support it. Let's go to the civil service. Let's go to procurement. Those things need to stop. I mean, so we need someone to say, listen, Nigeria is broke. We need to stop somewhere. Tinubu cannot be appointing 45 ministers. It's not possible. Where is the money to pay all this from? So a minister has 2 DSS, detail and chief detail, 5 policemen minimum, 2 cars, 3 cars, a staff car, security car, and a backup car. Now, depending on the ministry you have, if in education, all those big ministries parastatal, you'll find out that some of the DGs will send you a car. So a minister can have 10 cars drawing on our already poor recurrent expenditure. Then let's talk about aids. You're only entitled to 2 aids as a minister. 2, your personal assistant and your special assistant. But Nigeria, you have somebody have special assistant on private, chief of staff, nonsense, special. You are not, who is paying those salaries? The government that you claim that is going to change. So there's a disadvantage of having too many aides. You have 45 ministers. Then you have a retinue of special assistants on media. For what? Tinubu has over 100 special assistants on media. Why? Where was it done? Even Boy was not even this blatant. So you won't expect somebody who doesn't have accountability to appoint so many aides to draw on already the lean federal government budget, and you expect things to change. What is going to change? Let's be fair. What is going to change? Now, we need someone to come and say, these things have to stop. Ban all government officials from traveling abroad. The federal government can no longer pay excesses. So if people trust the government, people don't trust the government because the government has shown that they're not ready to make those sacrifices that the constituents want them to do. If people trust the government, then people can say, let's talk about increasing the tax base. But people cannot trust the government if they see the government so flagrantly abusive, so wasteful on spending. If not, tomorrow, next year, Carlo, you open a room, you talk about it. If the government doesn't want to be physically disciplined, then I'm sorry. Yes, all these crying things are becoming expensive. It's not going to change. That's my simple solution. The government has to wake up and become physically disciplined and stop doing things that make people doubt them. That's all. Thank you.
Well said. The government has to wake up, be fiscally disciplined. I mean, you make a good point. I hope people understand what you're saying. We can talk from here till next year, but if we don't manage that spending, that irresponsible spending, where we have 2 private jets broken down in Europe and all that kind of stuff, just irresponsible spending. That's going to change. I added foundational Lagosian to speak. Annie, if you're ready to speak now. Kaneke, thank you very much. That was well said. Foundational Lagos man, you've got the floor. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, sir. Loud and clear.
All right, very well. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Are you doing better? 4 years? Or
what?
Are you doing better off today than a year ago?
Okay, I'll start saying from the point where presently I'm not in the country, okay? So I would say from the information I get from home, from back home, it's so worse. It's so terrible, okay? And just to add to this, I would like to start with this quote that says, "Economics is not an experimental science. It is actually not about exactitudes, but it's about improving databases and our ways of reasoning around them." Okay, so that brings me to a point where we need to look at Nigeria as a whole. I've heard a lot from the previous speakers, and I really appreciate that a lot of people have contributed. But what I think is Nigeria really needs to get back to the basics. We've been discussing so much about the secondary issue. We need to get back. Like Kalu, you mentioned something about going back to settling about the Land Use Act, about the different right of ways and all that. Nigeria needs to go back to the very basics. The social contract between the government and the people is so destroyed. Nigeria, when I was in Nigeria, I attended a unity school. I knew what I was. I'm from Lagos. I'm from Lagos State. I knew what I had my score before I got into the unity school. And I had colleagues who came into the unity school scoring 2, 4, 5, and the rest. And we were all there in the same school. Presently, some of them are directors in the ministries up north. And we knew all they were back in secondary school. I'm talking about secondary school now. So Nigeria needs to go back to the drawing board. Nigeria needs to go back to the little basics. First, what do we stand for? Nigeria is built up not to move forward economically. There's no two way about it. I don't care about who the president is going to be. If the president or whoever is in the helms of affairs does not go to the drawing board and sit up with different things. We're talking about the coastal road, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, the coastal road.
Now these roads, everything that comes around this road cannot work because the laws guiding the procurement, the laws guiding the supplies and everything are being skewed towards illegalities. Why do you think the government can do all they did for this company, the Chagori company? Why do you think the government can boldly do it? Because there are laws they can come up with that support them. The people need to be involved in the laws that govern them. Earlier, you were mentioning about the Land Use Act. And that is true. It is part of why the road or the contract is like this. If the Land Use Act does not give the government this right of way, the companies, like the landmark company, like the people of Okwaja, like all these other people, can come up and sit with the government and decide on what to do. Not the government just coming up with a drawing. Like Tinubu has been talking about the Lagos Master Plan all these years, the Lagos Master Plan that no one had ever seen. You know, it is because all these things can be done in secrecy just because the law gives the government the right. So Nigeria needs to come up with something, our own document, not the document sewn in secrecy, not the document sewn to favor a few, but the whole the major part of the country. So we need to go back to that drawing board. Imagine a system where first, before you even start from the primary school, you are already disadvantaged. You're disadvantaged. You get into secondary school, you are more disadvantaged. You get to the university, you're more disadvantaged. You get to the working stage, you are far more disadvantaged. And we all know what this is. We know what it is. They call it this national spread, right? They give some disadvantaged regions. They give some. So by the time you get to the working stage where someone said something about not having quality people, why would you have quality people when someone who's at 260 in maybe from Abia State or Anambra State could not get to the university all the way, and someone who had 2 from Yobe is already a first-class graduate in one school down in the northeastern part of the country. He's going to be a director sometime. How do you expect to churn out quality people? You can't, because the quality people, the people who are supposed to be molded to become quality people, have been disadvantaged from birth. So these are the things we need to talk about. We're talking about all these lofty, highfalutin ideas. It won't work. It will never work, because how people get this idea to implement them starts from the formative years. And if the formative years have been destroyed, there's nothing we can do about it. Tinubu will remain president for whatever amount of years he wants to be there, bringing his cronies, his goons that they all went doing politics and whatever together, and they go around buying awards for whoever they think the people are going to listen to, and they get them and they put them there, they platform them, they give them the voice. They give these guys the voice. Then before, in 2-3 years' time, after giving them the voice now, they are the faces that you see, while the real quality people are disadvantaged. They do not have a voice.
I got you. I hear you. I think it's point is made. The point is made. I hear you completely. We have to do better. Like you said, we have to do better. And I like how you're linking the education to the development and all that. We have to start from somewhere. That's also the point, Mr. Ibaras.
So just in a minute, please. If I understand you, Mr. Kalu, right? What I'm trying to emphasize more is that Nigeria, as presently constituted, cannot work. There's no amount of thoughts that will be put into it. It won't work. It won't work because we've lost over 50 years. The people who are the helm of affairs today are the poor brains of before. Now the good brains of now are also being relegated to the background, and the poor brains of today. Just look around, even the social media. Look around the social media. Look at the SSAs and the A's and people who are there presently in the social media where we are today. Look at them. You read some of them tweet, and you just imagine how much crassness, how much crudeness these guys have. These guys are not polished to a point of leading community associations, but they're the faces of the government. These are the people who are representing us. So we have to go back to the basics, the primary thing. The last election, I did support Mr. Peter.
I want to get so I want you to.
Okay, please. I'll yield the mic. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I mean, I get your point, but we just have. We're rounding up. I think we're going to be done here, guys. Top of the hour. I want to make sure as much as I've been required to speak and speak. Okuna Uche, I've got you. Just going to make sure everyone that wants to speak speaks, and then we can take it from there. So if I drop you, just go on to create space to add so we can conclude the speak. Okuna Uche, I've got you, sir. Okuna Uche, please go ahead. Thank you for National Lieutenant. I appreciate your comments.
Hi, Carlo. It's always a pleasure to have an engagement with people from all walks of life, all of Nigerians, and what I would call present-day Nigeria. I have a lot of agreements with a lot of people who have spoken here. One of which is Nigeria as is will never be successful. It's not a hope thing. You do not hope your way into success. It's not how it works. You plan your way into success. So I'm one of the people that Tinubu would rather fashionably describe as warehouse economists, because I do own businesses in Nigeria. So when you ask, are you better off economically today than a year ago? I would tell you, for me, yes, I am, because I already had businesses. What I did was essentially increase my prices, and the people who are 9-to-5 salaries who need those essential businesses are paying through their teeth. Now, I would be worried because I have an empathetic side to myself. But at the same time, the game is the game. The country works if you're already in a place of comfort. If you're in a place where your salary is determined and exact, it's a hellhole for you right now. So, as much as he wants to deny it, the truth remains production will outdo consumption. And the only reason it feels like the economy is tilted towards my end is because I am invested in producing something that people consume. Does that make sense? That's how you win. If we're going to make a change as a country, we have to move from the position of consistently consuming what everybody else produces. Our cars are imported. Our food is imported. Everything we do is imported. We need to go from that to being the people who are creating systems that demand the dollar. Unfortunately, because we have a system right now where everybody has opinions and everybody is heavily tilted towards their tribe, we cannot exist as a united country. Whatever assumption we have that Nigeria is united is an illusion that was buried by the APC since 2015. Right? Or actually, I would call that 2012, in fact, when they started the whole vitriol against Jonathan and said everything that they could in this world and carried coffins on their head and, really, really introduced the tribal politics that we now see today. And then they carried that on over and over to the point, Carlo, that all of Nigerians once came out for something against the killings of youths in Nigeria. And that thing was tagged Sorosoke protest, if you recall. And he masterfully, with the APC, refined that to become Igbo people want to destroy Lagos. You understand that that would not be a thing that is possible if deep down inside, we still do not have sentiments that are holding us captive to the ability for someone to say Yoruba Ronu, and immediately people stop thinking. Immediately, it suddenly makes sense that a person would lick a microphone to test it, and that person is a viable candidate.
I hear you.
It makes sense. So my point to round all of this off is this. We're never going to get better economically until we create what the UK currently has, which is the same way the UK has Ireland, Scotland, and several different nations all handling their own shit. That's the only way forward for Nigeria. So that if something no good for your side, you go talk say na Igbo man do you. You go know exactly who you focus on. Say na your own person, they kill you. Because right now, Tinubu is president. And it's not working for all of us, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, Ibibio, everybody. They go the same filling station. They buy things at the same price.
Every single thing, real quick. In Belgium is very, very tribal. I mean, Belgium didn't even have a government because the two tribes in Belgium could not agree. They did not have a government because of tribe. The Flemish guys, and what's the other tribe in Belgium? But their trains will run on time. Their schools work, hospitals work. Is tribe really an excuse? We were tribal in 1960, but the Nigerian economy was the fastest growing on earth from 1960 to 63. It still grew till 1970. We were tribal back then. Because even back then, you would hear people saying, I will not employ this tribal man, I would employ a foreigner. So is tribe really the excuse?
Can I tell you something, Carl? We were also far more educated in the 60s. Our education system has consistently and deliberately been dilapidated by the people who are in power. The less people know, the less they can do. So when you say if we're tribal, but why you they forget say we be black people, or you no be black man, or you go get time where then go reason say, guy, okay, don't do. Black man no get time. You know they our body, Baba. People will die than accept the truth. You understand what I'm saying?
Rwanda, they literally died. They fought a tribal war, killed themselves. Now look at it. Right? So what's the, I'm just saying.
Baba, now because of say the president with the Rwanda, you understand, right now, now the guy we don't do since, and then don't put rules, talk say, if you do all those Tutsi, all those Hutu nonsense near inside, then go pump you. That's the idea. He has put a law that says you cannot talk about tribes. We are not tribal, we are Rwandans. He has made it such that death is a thing that can come because you do that stuff. However, it still they happen on the low. If you Google, if you go to Rwanda's Twitter and all that stuff, you go still see people who go still hit up with those with burner accounts. You see these Tutsi people and all those type of stuff. Now, look. When the UK came to Nigeria, right? When the UK came to what is present-day Nigeria, they met a bunch of nations. The Yoruba nation or the Oduduwa nation, then did their own, they do their own thing. The Arewa nation did their own, they do their own thing. The Igbo nation did their own, they do their own thing. And everybody don't establish cultural foundations we don't take for their own side already. Of course, there was intermarrying and big due to merchanting and all that stuff. People did we go, cross borders and go to other places to trade and intermingle and all that stuff. It existed. However, these nations were on their own, doing their own thing and successful in their own ways. The Yoruba people were inventing shit, and then the Igbo people were doing Igbo Uku and all the good things that they were able to do on their own. The Hausas were doing their own thing as well. It was all fine and dandy, right? Nobody was trying to come into the next person's land and tell them what to do. So you have to understand that originally, ancestrally, we are a people who have been on earth for a while. We found our own path, our own culture. And then one man in his caucasity shows up to this place and says, I've discovered black people, or I've discovered Nigeria. And no, you all look black. You're all around the same region. I'm going to make you into one country. That's what happened. Forgetting that we may all look black, but we're not the same people. So the solution for us is to go back to the foundation, do your shit on your own.
I hear you. I'm just making the point. I like the part it's an education thing, not a black thing, because like you said, there was more education in the 1960s, maybe, but how many Nigerians were educated in the 1960s? Not a lot of Nigerians. I would say by proportion, more Nigerians are educated today. But I remember Odumeji, the pastor guy, that says that all Nigerians are illiterate because we have PhDs, but the country has no covered gutters, things like that. He has a point that we have to start on the education of Nigerians. People like myself, very educated in Nigeria, abroad, but I'm Nigerian. The road to my village has bad roads, but I'm educated. We have to start to question our education. Education without works, is it worth anything? If I say I'm educated, but in my village, the road to my village is bad, am I really educated? I hear you. Let me go straight to Cadical FM. Akko, thanks for Cadical FM. Got the floor, sir. Go ahead. Cadical, you're there? Cadical. Let's get married bachelor. How can you be a married bachelor?
Mr. Carlo, good evening. How are you doing, sir? Hope my voice is audible.
Yeah.
Okay, I always get that question whenever I get into any space, but then I want to straight answer the second question you asked regarding if tribe is the reason why we are having that functional government, right? It could be a reason, but at the moment it's not, right? Now, tribe is just what they use to disorganize the citizens because they understand the power that comes with when the citizens are united. When you check the PDP slogan, it's a power to the people. The power actually belongs to the people. Senegal have done it, Argentina did it, Brazil did it, so many other countries. Until the day Nigerians decide to take back their country, just like Mr. Peter B will say, that's the only time it will get better.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Unfortunately, we had to cut it short. I do appreciate all of you for stopping by. Do join us every week, 7 p.m. West African time, where we're talking, of course, money, the economy, and personal finance, and trying to make sense of it. It's been a simple topic. Has your life been better in 1 year? The answer has been unanimous. No. Nigerians say their lives have not gotten better economically. So that behooves on the president to do better. Use the powers of your office, draw more people in, run an inclusive government, reduce the attacks and the excuses, and deliver. We're rooting for you. It's one country, it's our country. We want you to succeed so we can succeed. And we hope that that's what's going to happen. success, so everyone gets wealthier and Nigeria becomes more prosperous. On that note, you guys have a great weekday. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you and bye.